welcome to the BJJ Canada podcast. My name's Josh, Rapport, and I am here with our special guest, known I think as Danny, but Daniel Moroney.
That's right.
From Gracie Umaida.
Yep.
And Danny is a, correct me if I'm wrong, 4th degree black belt?
Yes, sir.
Under Royler Gracie.
That's right.
Right? And so Danny and I actually have a weird sort of history, because I was like a big asshole to him for the but I mean, well, mostly behind your back. But I came up with the guys from this place called Karma Martial Arts, and they had a problem with your brother because your brother used to be their instructor and some business stuff, whatever. And they were, and then you guys were like the rival academy to them in Woodbridge. So they were like, you guys used to be with us, now you're not. And so I used to be on the opposite side of the equation back in the, I guess still the Wild West days, like 2002.
Yeah.
And so I had like this crazy impression, and one of the things that really clouded my judgment was like, everyone's like, oh, Danny's not that good. And I'm now like, I think 0 for 7 in tournaments against Danny. So I mean,
who's counting?
Well, I mean, not me. I've been choked so many times. So it was just one of those things. And you meet the person, you actually talk to them. I think it's like a big thing in life, but also in jiu-jitsu, that and you learn that it's a lot different than you thought. Right. And also, the scene's much more mature now that we're in 2020 now, versus 2001, 2002. So this is something that probably people, they couldn't have imagined podcasts back in the day, but probably even just like having like a friendly conversation, probably not too many people, thought it would happen, but it just shows like, growth is possible. And so here we are going to talk about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, some history, lots of history. So you're one of the first black belts in Canada, probably first 10 or so.
Actually, officially, I'm the actual first. So
officially, you're the first.
I'm the first. Yeah, I got my black belt July 6th, if I'm not mistaken, July 6th or 7th, 2001, and it was awarded to me by a gentleman named Mauricio Miguel Periera, and he's more famously known as Hunter.
Hunter gear guy, yeah.
Yeah, so he was the guy who owned Hunter, and he was related to, actually, he's cousins of Master Sylvio Behring.
Okay.
And when I started training with them in Brazil in '98, I went to Brazil in '98 for about 2 months, and actually the majority of the training I did was under Professor Mauricio. And I developed a really good relationship with him, obviously with my good friend Rodrigo Mandruga, another black belt who now lives in the United States, who lived in Canada for a couple of years. And I'm going to say "and" a lot, so I'm going to do my best not to.
It's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, that's so one of the things that actually is interesting is I thought you got your black belt in 2000.
No, I opened my school in 2000 after my brother's school closed down.
Yes.
And that all that kind of history and stuff. I opened up under Bravado Jiu-Jitsu, and started to pick up the pieces, because we were about 250 students at the time my brother's school closed down.
Oh wow.
And I think one of the largest, because it was actually at the time it was Grappling Arts and Samurai Club under Monier Zeke, and those were the two powerhouses in the 90s. And obviously this 2000 hit, basically everything sort of crumbled. My brother unfortunately moved back to Montreal. Him and his wife separated, and he wanted to be with his daughters, understandably.
Yes.
And that's where that's where the whole kind of 6 degrees of separation between you and I actually started, was actually there, because a couple of the students who actually helped take over the school, basically just things didn't go the way they should. And I'm not going to get too much into it, but it's 20 years ago. Things didn't happen the way they should, and basically there was a huge split. So I went on my own way. I opened up my own school, and then I started Karma, and and here we are. Obviously the great thing about it is obviously that basically the transformation from Karma to Toronto BJJ, and obviously our school's still around. So obviously that's it's just testament of time, right? And obviously those people who were involved with my brother, they're long gone. So
well, there's just for the record, they're still alive.
Yeah.
And I mean they're good guys in their own right.
Yeah.
But the thing is that it's how we deal with these issues. Like people don't like to admit that they're imperfect. So like I'm sure that they had like legitimate things that they were upset about, but they wouldn't be like they wouldn't be understanding. The other person could turn around and say, hey, there's something on your side too. And so there wasn't like, people weren't trying to understand each other. I mean, it's what I've gotten from it now, having seen the history more fully, and you know, as those, you know, as things, as you know, time sort of loosens lips and stuff like that, you sort of hear what's up, and it's kind of interesting. But so one of the things that came about was that back in the day, it was like if you were a purple belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in the Greater Toronto area, like I remember Mark Bocek. And Mark Bocek basically was, you know, from an international point of view, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in Canada from probably 2001 through 2004. If you were like looking at like who's like the Canadian competitor in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I think he would be the biggest name. Oh yeah. Right. Absolutely. And so back in the day, I was once at this place, Mark Stables. I don't know if you remember Mark Stables, and Mark. And Mark ran an academy in you know, sort of out of an alleyway garage with a huge metal door off of Queen Street in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. And Queen Street's all over Canada, so I gotta be clear, it's in Toronto. You know, one day I was there, and Mark Bocek came in, put his purple belt on the mat, and I was just staring at the purple belt. And then I looked around. And like Mark Bocek probably went downstairs to like, you know, go to the washroom or something like that, you know, take a dump. But I'm staring at this belt, and I look around to see if anybody saw me staring at the belt, and I saw 3 other guys just staring at the belt, just the belt. Because it wasn't like that was the only purple belt we'd ever seen. There was this guy Omar Silvosa who was at that same location for a bit, and he was a purple belt. So it was like, you know, at least, you know, like I'd seen a purple belt before, you know, but it was just like just even that belt. And so it's amazing to think now that, like, you know, you're a purple belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. It's a totally awesome accomplishment. But, I mean, how many purple belts are there at your school right now? You run a school. What's the name of your school?
Well, I mean, the academy is Gracie Humaitá Woodbridge, but it's also known as Bravado Jiu-Jitsu. We run under the Gracie name now, so we've been doing that for quite a while. It's some more of like a brand thing, you know. Like obviously our operating name is Bravado Jiu-Jitsu Academy, but we've basically adhered towards the Gracie name, and obviously, you know, it's a no-brainer, right? So, you know, it's funny you say that because, like, I mean, our school now we're just over 300 students as we speak.
Man, congratulations! That's amazing. That probably makes you one of the larger schools in the country, and you know, people don't realize that you know, there's a lot of jiu-jitsu happening in this country, and you know, it used to be if you had like 60 students, you're like pretty big, you know. Now it's like I mean, you guys, maybe like when you guys first started, there was like that sort of mid-90s boom in Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and then it died out before 2000. And so then, you know, the numbers went back down again. Yeah. But now it's like there's all these schools. Anyway, so how many purple belts do you think you have?
In my school right now, we've probably got, I'd say about 6 or 7 purple belts. Now, you know, for us, we got a sea of blue belts, obviously tons of white belts, but I mean, we have quite a few black belts. We have like 6 black belts on staff. Nice. Staff, as meaning they always help out. A lot of my black belts, they're basically a lot of the guys, they're much older, and I find a lot of times they're just content to come in, train, roll. I got some, actually my brown belts are pretty tough guys. Yeah. The black belts don't like them too much, but but that's okay.
Well, that's generational too, because like today's blue belt is like yesteryear's like really high purple or brown belt.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, you know, I just remember I try to explain to people that the evolution. I'm just a normal guy, and I was like, man, if I had the skills that I have today in jiu-jitsu back when I started in like 2001, late 2001, early 2002, like was when I started joining academies, you know, like it would be like Wayne's World, where people were like, you know, like we're not worthy, because you know what I mean, like because that skill level that like the average student today possesses would have put you in like the top 20 or 30 in Ontario back in the day.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? It's amazing.
Well, you know, I mean, if you look at it today, like when I went to Brazil the first time, and just to be in a room with, you know, browns and blacks, and they were just like toy with you, and here in Canada, obviously, like if you saw a purple, like I mean, I remember the first time I ever saw a purple belt. The first time was a guy named Steve Maxwell, if you've ever heard of him.
Yes, the strength and conditioning coach.
Yeah. So he was under Periera and Royce. When he came to a seminar in Montreal, and I saw that, I was like, wow, that's like a unicorn. Like I'd never seen a purple belt before. And you know, Steve Maxwell, oh my God, that guy was just like, you know, just toying with people, and he just made it look easy. So and funny enough, we started to see that kind of thing happen like today now. Like it's such a commonplace thing. In Brazil, like there's tons of black belts and purples, browns and stuff. And in Canada at the time in 2000, it was like unheard of. Like you never saw a handful of purples if you were lucky, right? Obviously all the OGs today were those guys then. And so today, we have quite a few. We have that generational ladder now. Is that the guys here in Canada are very fortunate because there's every academy has at least a black belt, or half a dozen or a dozen, and they can train with them, and they don't have to travel. They don't have to, venture out, to Brazil and spend months and months at a time like I did. I had to travel to California, New York, and Brazil and so forth. Yeah,
I mean, when I started, the rank of the head instructor for the first academy I formally joined was a one stripe blue belt.
Yeah.
And nothing wrong with that, but it's interesting now. Like now it'd be kind of weird if you're a blue belt starting an academy in Southern Ontario.
Yeah.
Which is where we're both out of. For those either unfamiliar with Woodbridge, Woodbridge is. I mean, today Danny's complaining it's an hour drive down to Toronto BJJ, which is where we're filming out of.
Yeah. Traffic's brutal, man.
Yeah, no, it's. I mean, obviously, do you download Waze? It's a great app.
Yeah, Waze. It actually Waze got me here 10 minutes faster. So.
Okay, wow. Okay, so yeah, so I don't know if there's some blockades. There's some other stuff going on. I won't get into that.
Yeah.
But so no, that's the thing. But Woodbridge actually isn't that far from Toronto. Like from the border of Toronto, Woodbridge is literally just across the street. So that make it sound really close, but it is like that.
I think you could probably walk here faster than drive.
I mean, I'm sure somebody's gonna try that now.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Not
now. I think there's just too many streetlights in the way. To be honest, I think that more than anything is slowing the drive because there's so many more developments and stuff like that. Like if you look at like on your drive, there's sort of like York University is almost like could have been part of your drive. I mean, I don't know exactly where Woodbridge you're starting from, but if you were coming down from where when I used to train in Woodbridge, there, York University would be sort of to the side.
Yeah.
Now a lot of that land that wasn't developed before is developed, and so that pushes more traffic and it pushes more lights and it pushes more developments elsewhere. Anyway, so one of the things that was interesting is that back in the day, people, and I'm sure this problem's actually going to come around again, is the issue of who actually is a legitimate belt, because before the issue was that there wasn't the internet really. I mean, it was like we're still doing like dial up. And for the most part, and so there was like one thing that was like I think it was like BJJ.org, and
the underground.
In the underground, but the thing is the information wasn't solid. So the thing is, if someone claimed to be a certain rank, you couldn't tell if that was true.
Mm-hmm.
And so my first introduction to that was with Danny, because I say, well, and although I hadn't ever met him, it was like. People are like, well, if this, Danny claims he's a black belt, but and then like, and this is mostly like the guys that sort of had issues with his brother, and then we couldn't tell. And now today we're gonna have the opposite problem where there's just so many black belts that like the academy I go to has I think 70 or so, right? So now there's just so many black belts that verifying is going to be difficult too, because not everybody likes to compete. Not everybody's going to send in their stuff to the IBJJF. And then back in the day, it was like I had some friends that like to play drums, and they go, there is this Japanese guy from Sao Paulo, and he got his black belt from like Elio Gracie. Like I mean, it was either Elio or like somebody like one of Elio's friends. Like it was I believe they said Elio.
Yeah.
And so if you did the math on when he would have received his black belt, he would have been easily 5th or 6th degree black belt. And they're like, he doesn't do jiu-jitsu anymore. He doesn't like it. He just likes to play the drums. He's 60 or whatever it was. He was 50, 60 years old. This was back in 2000. And 2001, 2002. I heard the story. So, and of course there's no way to verify it. I mean, this, and now of course, it wasn't a problem because this guy wasn't trying to teach. It wasn't an issue. But now it's going to be the opposite. And then of course, what was interesting to me is that people could be so petty, so you couldn't even rely on information. Because usually when someone says, "Oh, that guy's not like legit," it's whatever. So they said, well, Danny didn't receive his promotion or whatever. And then one of the guys from Car Martial Arts, I don't want to name names because they're all buddies. I could cost him his friends. He was like, "I was there when he got promoted."
Yeah.
He was on the same trip, so I think we know who it is. I think, or you know who you have the suspect list.
I think so.
Yeah, and he's like just between me and you, Josh. I was there when he got his black belt. You know, so it was one of those interesting moments, and of course it was particularly relevant at the time because Mario Chivichyan had just left the province of Ontario, and so there was no black belt in Ontario outside of Danny in 2001 for about 2 months until Wagner showed up.
Yeah,
right.
Wagner was in Montreal all the time. So.
Yes,
I know because I actually trained with him in when I was there in Montreal visiting with my brother. So.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, a lot of people, obviously there's always going to be haters no matter what
mm-hmm.
and stuff, and I get it, you know, and when obviously everybody was going to the underground at that time, MMA on TV, and
almost nobody goes there. It's like a ghost town now.
Yeah.
If you go there, it's like you see like an open post, and it's like and it's like, you know, still up high, like, you know, so it's like nobody's done a post over it, and it's like 6 months later. It's like, you know, God. So like you can, you know, back in the day, like, you know, it was so popular that, you know, that 3 days later you couldn't find a post you were interested in because it was so far down. You'd really have to search, and you'd have to get like pro features so that you could actually search the post. Now it's like, man, if you post about something in the last 6 months, you can find it easy. You know.
Well, I mean, social media killed that, I guess, but yeah, I remember like, okay, who's gonna flame the underground today, you know? So I always get a good chuckle because you have some people who just want to go in there and just you know, start shit for nothing. We can swear, it's okay.
Yeah, we totally can swear. I mean, we'll dub over it, and you'll by the end of it you'll have said something even more politically incorrect.
Oh, okay.
I'm just kidding.
So you're gonna do unnecessary, one of those like unnecessary bleeping there. Okay.
No. So I mean, it's changed dramatically. But I think one of the things that the scene has matured, and I actually want to talk about this. Because back in the day, like it was really bad how much we talked poorly about others. So like you wouldn't want to visit another gym because you'd hear those guys were bad people, right? And so like there's a certain amount of trust, I think, when you go to visit another, like when you like, is it, you know, one of the topics I want to get into is the scene maturing, but the issue of instructors trying to control their students maybe in terms of like, you know, where they go and train, and then maybe some of the reasons why. Because I mean, back in the day, it was really a big thing of respect. Like, if you're going to go train somewhere else, and like, like you should ask your instructor first.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's still always a great policy because I think like you don't need your instructor's permission, obviously, but it's just nice to let them know so they're not finding out about it on social media. They're not whatever. And then sometimes your instructor has good tips. Your instructor knows who's in the neighborhood. Your instructor knows, you know, what's a safe place to train.
Exactly.
And that you know, that's one of the things. So I mean, I just know that so many times people from my academy go train somewhere else, and you know, in friendship, and we never said don't go there, and then we would be badmouthed by the hosts, you know, and it's just like, oh, okay, that's not nice. And so, you know, then that would breed us sort of, you know, retaliating. Now we don't retaliate. We're just like, okay, like people can say what they want to say. We realize it reflects poorly on them. But back in the day, you couldn't really trust that. But now this leads into a new thing, open mats.
Yes.
Which is actually why I invited Danny.
The main reason why I'm here.
The main reason why I'm here. So, open mats, for those who are there's a couple different types of open mats. There's the most common open mat today, which is just 4 people in the academy, which basically is that there's no structured class. Yeah. But that's not where open mats came from in the Greater Toronto area. Open mats used to be an invite for people to come from all different academies and across what we call affiliations. Yeah. So affiliations are sort of your team name. That might be like the team that you'd represent at Worlds if you were one of the 2 best in the weight class. So like Gracie Mauriciao is the team that you compete for. Mm-hmm. I used to compete for a team called Rapport, which then sometimes would be lent to the greater affiliation, which was Gracie Mauriciao up until some point in 2010. So which is kind of, I think the guy that set that all off isn't even with Gracie Mauriciao anymore. We don't want to name names because the guy's an amazing instructor and nothing wrong. Yeah. But it was a thing, right? Somebody wanted a top spot and they bumped the defending champ from representing Gracie Mauriciao.
That's again politics and obviously.
But it was anyway. So it's the thing. So you'd have like your affiliation, like the larger affiliations, which are more like where the art came from. So like from the Fada line, you sort of have Nova Niao, which is like the Fada Carlson Gracie line. Right. You have Gracie Mauriciao, which is like Elio Gracie. Mm-hmm. There's Gracie Baja, which is, you know, Carlos Gracie. So like when Elio and Carlos, you know, sort of when people develop teams and sort of split along those lines, Carlos's line, represented by Gracie Baja, and then Gracie Maita by it was sort of more the Elio Gracie line. Yeah. Although it's kind of silly because there's so much interchange, right? And then Carlson Gracie sort of, I don't even know who you'd credit him. He's sort of gone on his own way. Before that was a big.
Well, Carlson, and again, I've been very fortunate to obviously know a lot about the family. I've been training with the family for a long time, and obviously I've trained with many different black belts from many different teams. And obviously at the time in Canada when, I trained with Renzo, trained with Jean-Jacques, trained with most of the Machados except for Hodger, and then trained with Rodrigo Medeiros and Carlson Gracie.
Yeah.
So I got to understand a lot of the different styles, and obviously the same thing with the philosophies and stuff. And for me, I always loved the Gracie Maita, Grandmaster Elio, his sort of philosophies. Because I was a bouncer for years, and the self-defense was so important, but I loved the competition as well. And you had some people who, you were either a competitive person or you were a self-defense person, and you kind of like, oh man, I want to compete, I want to do this nonsense, serious self-defense stuff. And I tell the guys, like, look, I was a bouncer. If someone's pulling out a gun or a knife, obviously run. But I mean, if someone has a weapon towards you or they're throwing a punch, a lot of schools don't really push that kind of thing. And again, it doesn't have to be a huge thing. A lot of people think it's just going to be all self-defense. It's going to look like karate and stuff like that, and it's not. A lot of the stuff that we do is a lot of fun, and the majority of my students who in my academy, I'm just speaking for myself, they enjoy it. They're not world champions and stuff. Like I got maybe 10% of the people, I got 30 people, killers in the room that just want to murder each other every day and stuff, and which is fine. They have classes for that. But
and to understand the murdering, some people say jiu-jitsu is like practicing, like simulating murder. And the idea is that when you tap out, like because you were in some type of submission hold, that's almost like a death. That's sort of like admitting that if that had been a fight and you got stuck in that position, that you were gonna, from there, the only thing was death or the other person stopping. Yeah. And so then you tap so the other person stops, and that's a preferable way to go. But the funny thing is, it usually doesn't even hurt. It doesn't even hurt. Like you just tap because it's done.
And it's fun,
right? It's fun. So actually, this leads into like that sort of we'll get back to the top of open mats, but we got into the idea of self-defense. And what do you think? Does self-defense make your sport of jiu-jitsu better?
Well, here's the thing, right? The big argument for a lot of people, and I can understand their point of view. For some schools that are very competitive and they want the team trophy and stuff, because I know you're very, very into the team trophy stuff, and you know what?
Not anymore. We don't have any more space.
No, you're funny. But, to be quite honest with you, I would love to do that, but to be honest with you, I find that for me as a jiu-jitsu instructor, I want to make sure that the people walking into my door can protect themselves, protect their families and stuff. Can a sport jiu-jitsu person do that? Absolutely, for sure. But there's that mentality, there's that kind of switch that you need to learn. And like I said, if you teach them at the beginning stage, they'll remember it, and they don't have to do anything crazy about it. And then they can get into the sport, which a lot of my students do anyways. But honestly, some of them don't want to be a world champion, and that's okay.
But I'm going to disagree with you a little bit, and not actually on what you're saying, but where you went with the question. Mm-hmm. I feel like the question to me is more important. Is that I think most gyms spend most of their time, or most academies, right? Some places are gyms, other places are academies. I'm just joking. Mm-hmm. But the most places spend most of their time doing sportive jiu-jitsu because that's where you can have the most fun with what makes jiu-jitsu unique.
Yeah,
and so therefore the question for me that's interesting is that people think that it's an either or. I don't think self-defense is an either or. And so what's always interesting to me is that when you look at the guys with the greatest fundamentals, right, and then you ask them about self-defense, traditional self-defense, they know it.
Yeah.
Like if you ask Roger Gracie about traditional self-defense, he knows some things. Yeah. If so that's one of the, and Shanji Ribeiro, those were like my two big references, right? They know stuff. Yeah. They know, and the funny thing that I've always felt is that I remember one time I was very lucky to take a seminar with Royler Gracie, who you have gotten to train with many times, but for me it's a special treat. For you, I don't know if you appreciate it like you should.
Oh, I do. Kicks my butt all the time.
Getting it live, you have to have the right reaction, right? Or Royler's going to see. I'm going to send him a clip. So, and it was like a defense of like someone like sort of like hugs you from behind around your waist, and you got to split the hands and get what's called a kimura, which is a type of shoulder lock that has a different name in judo, but apparently this guy Kimura caught Sylvio Gracie in this lock, so they in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu we call it a kimura. And it's a type of shoulder lock. But anyways, we did this drill, all of a sudden I was catching a lot of submissions, particularly kimuras and things that could come off those types of grips so easily. Like I could feel the leverage, and not only did I catch it more, but I was catching it felt easier.
Yeah.
So then I wondered, because I'm not a referendum on jiu-jitsu, unto myself. So I've always wondered, like, does training some self-defense make you better at, like sensitivity to submission, sensitivity to balance? Does training the self-defense specific aspects of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu make you better at the sport?
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. I feel that having some of those types of scenarios where some people are not grabbing very, I would say like gi gripping, like if you're gripping the sleeves all the time,
not blocking you.
Yeah. So if they're always doing that, then it's a specific type of a fight. But if you have people who are, trying to grab you a different way, like a wrestler mentality or even a judo mentality that are very different than jiu-jitsu, then like that self-defense mindset, it comes in very, 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 importantly, right? Because especially if you're fighting someone who's like a wrestler, heavier, and they're not accustomed to grabbing the gi, then you got to understand how the gi is working. Now, that being said, you can use gi grips and stuff as a self-defense tool. I teach it all the time, and people laugh, you can use a sport mindset for self-defense, but it's, again, like I said, it's just a bit of a switch. It's not a lot, right? And it's just enough to know so that if someone's going to throw a punch, a throw a punch or headbutt. I'm not sure if you remember Alan Go is. Alan Go is a BJJ black belt, and he was like considered like, and hopefully he doesn't come to my school and try and beat me up.
Well, he just has to give you one headbutt.
Yeah, he was like and at the time they were loud. He was like a dirty headbutter, man. That guy headbutt everybody. And I think I remember one UFC they actually changed the rules, and he was really visibly upset because he wanted to headbutt people.
No, because it's a great weapon. I mean, So first of all, just a quick plug for my new instructional called Deep Half Guard for the Streets. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh boy. Is the waiter sweep thrown in there too?
No. But interestingly enough, I was talking to somebody that was getting ready for an MMA fight, and he goes, "Man, I have to eat my words about the deep half guard viability for mixed martial arts, because like it's actually a great position once you know it." And so that's the crazy thing people don't realize. And then I don't want to go too deep into this because we're here to talk about your stuff, but there was a program at the school where I go to, and it was teaching women who are likely to be attacked self-defense. And the story that got relayed to me, I was not the teacher of that course at that time, so a shout out to Nathan Rector, apparently did a great job. People in the jiu-jitsu community around here know him as Nacho, right? I don't know if they know him like that in Nova Scotia. He's from Muscatavit, Nova Scotia, so shout out to Scotia. And so anyways, this lady had done like a few classes, and this guy apparently was a serial attacker. I don't know exactly what description. She either grabbed his wrists or the sleeve of his jacket or shirt and basically spider guarded, and then threw up kicks to the middle of his sort of groin region until the guy ran away. Wow. So she used basically sportive jiu-jitsu with a mild modification. Yeah. And had like 5-6 classes. And and I know that the classes were designed to basically like show the more powerful parts of the sportive stuff we do every day in the academy, but with the modification of being aware of punches and kicks and how to, and when you can throw them yourself. And she was able to successfly use that. So people don't understand that for people that, it's awesome. I cheered up when I heard it. It's a few years ago, so I'm not going to tear up now. But so it's an interesting thing. But I've also found the reverse is that the self-defense helps with the sport. Yes. Right. So for me, anyways, you know what I mean. Like, and maybe for you, it's a way that because you grew up doing the self-defense first, that the way you conceptualize jiu-jitsu, you probably blended the difference, and so then it's almost like you have to force it back into different categories now, where it's like, okay, this is self-defense techniques, and these are, whereas you learned it all as one jiu-jitsu, whereas I learned sport jiu-jitsu, and then I learned self-defense jiu-jitsu, and so like my appreciation for it maybe is a little different.
Well, it's a generational thing, and it's no different in Brazil as well. And you see here in Canada, like the OGs, a lot of them were, they know the self-defense because a lot of the instructors who they trained under were, from the Sylvio Gracie lineage. And so obviously the importance of self-defense was always put into the class. And I think, like I said, like I think it's great. You know, I believe that it's important for everyone just to learn it. And, you know, it doesn't have to take the majority of time. You know, like our class, 5 minutes of self-defense, that's it, and we're back into doing our regular stuff, into our curriculum. You know, we have a beginner's curriculum, we have an advanced curriculum, and you know we do all the stuff. And it's funny because a lot of people think Gracie Muay Thai is like, you know, very, you know, bland, traditional, and it's actually not true. Actually, it's you'd be quite surprised. We're, you know, a lot of the instructors within the team are actually, you know, avid competitors. Obviously, you got Megaton Diaz, you got Paulo Coelho, you got Morongo, who's a UFC fighter, Leticia Ribeiro, multiple-time world champion. You know, and a lot of them come from actually the Gracie Tijuca, Vinny Aeta lineage as well.
Yeah.
And you know, Vinny Aeta is, you know, an amazing instructor, and that guy's like turned out so many great competitors as well. And obviously, you know, Professor George as well. You know, he's
that's my instructor, and also Vinicius Magalhaes, and wasn't there Daniel Moraes?
Yeah, Daniel Moraes as well,
world
champion as well. Yeah, he's actually in Art Suave. That's how I remember.
Yeah. So it's one of the interesting things. I will say this, that, you know, if you ever get a chance to take a Royler Gracie seminar in self-defense, the academy I go to was very fortunate to have them a few times, and one of the times, honestly, people were still smiling about it like a week and a half later. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? So it was like when Royler Gracie comes down to Ontario, they run him ragged. So I mean, they have him doing like, I don't know how many seminars per day. They're just like, you know, hey, can you come here? Can you come there? Right? And so, like, you know, it gets to the point where, like, you know, we're not, the school I go to isn't Gracie Muay Thai, but has that lineage that Danny's referring to. So, you know, we sort of try to beg him. He's like, well, you know, I can fit you in between 2:30 and 4 on a Friday. You know. So like this year we couldn't make it happen because something else was going on between 2:30 and 4 on a Friday. But but it's just like, it's an amazing opportunity, and you won't regret it. I think he still recycles the same stories about his father every time. Not sure. Hopefully, don't get mad at me. But it's just like the feeling you get, and you'll learn something of value for sure. And I mean, you know, just like the way that Royler defends the choke from the back when the person pulls you backwards. This is actually a really interesting point when you talk about sport jiu-jitsu and people not knowing it. So like, I kind of think with punches and kicks, you get sucker punched a lot, you get sucker kicked a lot. So you're going to take, a lot of times you're going to get that first, like for guys, you're going to get that first blow, because, you know, guys either you guys, you know, sort of chest to chest and have like a little preamble, or you right away, like someone just starts and the other person's definitely not ready. But the thing is that where I really see the difference is not really about taking the initial punches, because sometimes just the shock, whatever. And I'm unfortunately blessed with Homer head. So since you look like my doppelganger, you probably have the same thing. You know, it's like people are wondering, like when they do like Josh is missing. You know, what an age, you know, 3 years later, what would an age enhanced photo of Josh look like?
Just less hair. You were just blessed with hair, man.
Yeah. You know what? I mean, there's some of the things, there's a distinct possibility that Danny and I are related. And then just as an aside, I'll get back to the self-defense thing, that there's this guy in Nevada who was like a jander at the World Masters, and he looked like my doppelganger.
Oh my God.
And so when two people from my academy, this guy Mike Nemikos is a character himself. I got to get him on the podcast at some point. He's a guy that switched over from being a judo guy to a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guy, or, you know, whatever. Maybe he's
switch to the dark side.
Switch to the dark side, but this guy fought Shoni Carter in MMA. Like he's crazy. Oh, wow. He's crazy. Anyways, so Mike and Andrea, who also trains this lady Andrea, who I think you've probably met. She helps work the tournaments sometimes and stuff like that. And she's a great competitor in her own right. But anyways, they found this guy and they asked if he could take a photo with me, and he instantly understood why. So we were such doppelgangers. He got why this photo was happening, and he did it. And I went to the guy and I said, hey, just out of interest, what's your father's first name? and he wouldn't tell me. Oh boy. And then I said, like, man, the guy wouldn't tell me, like, blah blah blah. And they go, and somebody pointed out, Josh, you might not know.
Yeah.
And you know, not to get too deep in my own family history, my dad got around. Oh. So there's a possibility, right? But you know, like we're gonna do one of those, like, you know, DNA tests at some point to find out if Danny and I are related. You know, at least we can do that, right? Anyways,
I can see Maury Povich being right here.
Right there. Right?
You're not the father.
You're not the father. Well, given our age, I can guarantee you, Danny, we're not the father. You're not the father.
No, well, well.
But anyways, we'll get back to what we were talking about. But so on the self-defense side, a couple world championships ago, one of the competitors from my school, I asked him, "Do you know how to defend yourself, like self-defense?" And I mean, we're talking about a guy that, Danny kills me, and I don't mean to disrespect Danny, but if this guy, he's a brown belt now, and he was a purple or brown then, and my money would be on him any day of the week. I'm gonna use his name. Hope he doesn't get mad. David Crimus, right? This guy's got a win over Dante Leone. I mean, he's got some game. He's beaten. I think he's even has a win over Cameron Florzak. So some of the better people that have ever come out of Canada. This guy can go toe to toe. And I pulled him backwards, and he said he knew how to defend himself. So I pulled him backwards with the choke, and he didn't know.
Yeah.
I mean, like I'm sure eventually he could have gotten out because he's just that good once we're on the ground, even though I'm choking him. Mm-hmm. But I wasn't choking him hard, but I'm just saying like he really didn't know how to defend himself. So if I'd really been intent, I could have maybe even had that. And the other day I grabbed somebody else because I asked the same question, so it's not without permission, not assaulting people. And it was actually, what it was? It was this guy Oscar at the tournament. He was trying to put this other academy's T-shirt in front of me and take a photo because we had gotten Fernando Zulik with a Hyperfly T-shirt in front. Or if you don't believe me, I've got the proof.
Oh, I gotta see.
Right.
This.
So Fernando Zulik, for those who don't know, is the leader of Action Reaction in Cicero Costa, Canada. So probably one of the top competition squads in the whole country. And they're actually doing, and we can talk about this too, but in my opinion, they're doing a great service for competitive jiu-jitsu in Canada by bringing in all these top competitors from Cicero Costa in Brazil. And, anyways, so he's the leader of that, and he just wanted to use the warm-up mats for the Hyperfly Canada booth because it was the only place with the warm-up mats at the Abu Dhabi Jiu-Jitsu Pro and Canada Nationals. Yeah. And so he held a Hyperfly T-shirt in front of himself for a second, sheepishly, but we have a photo. And so then Oscar tried to put this T-shirt of an academy that split off from my instructor's academy, not on the best of terms, in front of me. But it said self-defense on the T-shirt, so I immediately got behind him and put him in the thing. He didn't really know how to respond. I didn't actually choke him, but I controlled him backwards, and he didn't know how. And so Royler showed how to defend basically what can be a life-ending choke. Yeah. And it's so simple. I mean, I don't want to get too into it, and obviously you need to go and check out Royce Gracie or go to even a Gracie certified training center or whatever. Or you can come down to our academies and we can show you. But basically, Royler has a way of holding on to the person's arm that's most choking you and swiveling him and then making that person carry all of his weight and then swiveling in a way that he's then in position to trip them down to the ground. So in midair, I can't do it in midair. I use a basketball style pivot step, which I bet Danny does too.
Yeah.
You're
talking about.
Yeah, but Danny's like, no, Josh. Actually, I can do a pull up, Josh, and I could do it, and I can maintain that pull up as long as it takes to perfectly position myself.
Heavyweight, man.
Yeah. I think you actually you might even outweigh me by now. I'm 230.
230? I'm actually 238, so I'm actually down. I was in the 275 range for a while, so
it's like we're twins, man. I'm taller, so do I guess be Arnold?
I'm gonna try to get into the super and scare everybody in that division.
There you go. So anyways, I mean, it's just amazing. It's amazing how effective it is, and one of the things actually, let's see if you agree with me on this. One of the things I think about self-defense is that because of the martial arts movies, where basically the guy defending himself, like a Jet Li or Bruce Lee, they obliterate the people that are attacking them, and that's then people's idea of self-defense, is that you're able to knock them out. But really, I think self-defense is just being able to defend yourself. Whatever happens to the other person is sort of immaterial to whether or not you defended yourself.
I agree with you.
So one of the things about self-defense jiu-jitsu techniques is that when you practice them in the gym, they don't really work because the other person's not attacking you 100%. And so they're everything's kind of loose. So would you really throw somebody from a position if they're trying to choke you? Maybe not, because they're not holding on for real.
Well, so here's the thing, right? And I like to really clarify this. One of the biggest things that the Gracie family did in the early days is they trained privates. So they taught everything in a private setting. So 3 students usually, or actually 2 students and 1 instructor. And the reason why they did that, and they had a lot of instructors back in those days, is so that when they taught the self-defense curriculum, they needed to have the instructors be the attacker, because they had to be convincing. So this is the problem when you have two beginners who just don't know how to throw a punch, or handle a weapon and stuff like that. So you have these instructors who are actually trying to be as legitimate as possible, like to try to throw a punch, and obviously within control, so you're not hurting your partner. That's what they did, and let me tell you, they did half-hour classes, and they were saying that there was an average of, oh my God, they were saying almost 100 students a day being taught private classes. So that's 50 classes a day. I don't know about you, like half-hour classes. So you'd have like 5 or 6 instructors, doing 10 privates a day. It's like 5-6 hours. That's exhausting. And so that's when they started changing to a more, class format. And obviously, with the sport being more obviously popular, and like I said, I'm a sport guy. I'm a competitor too, and I love the actual classes. Like today we did in my class I taught the sickle sweep. We did the balloon. And these are competitive jiu-jitsu techniques, and then we show the people, okay, well, here's what you can do, from this aspect. Watch out, someone's trying to punch you. If this is like a real fight, or if they're going to bite you, be careful, right? So just kind of, again, like I said, the mindset. But then we have the sports stuff, which, okay, here's 2 points, here's 4 points for this, et cetera, et cetera. So we still blend that mindset as well. Like I said, we both have that mindset. But that being said, with Master Royler, he's world champion and stuff like that, but he really stresses the self-defense. It's important because, like I said, 90% of the people walking in the door, they're not coming here to be world champion at first. And I'm really stressing that because, I have moms and dads that are coming into the academy, and, they don't have sometimes a competitive bone in their body. They become competitors, and then those are the people that, I love it, I love the sport, and it pushes them and makes them, their jiu-jitsu better. We need the competition. It pushes people, and it pushes the evolution of jiu-jitsu and the technical aspect even more. We have to, but the self-defense is something of a tradition that has to be maintained to a certain point. So, and that's, again, the biggest argument everyone has. It's like one or the other. No, we should have everything merged together. My 2 cents.
I believe so too. And I think that one of the things that's interesting is that a great way to test whether or not a technique works is to know whether or not you could still do it in the self-defense scenario. Like, what if the guy were to try to punch you? And it's interesting because, like, if the answer is I could never do this, then you also tend to find that eventually, a couple of years later, you'll find that the technique is also shut down in the sport of sense. I'll give you a good example. Okay. Half guard, where my head is not lower than, I'm on the bottom, and my head is not lower than the guy on top's head. So if you understand that basically the idea is that the idea about half guard is to sort of disappear underneath the guy towards the guy's back, or disappear underneath the guy, like eventually, I guess, towards his back, which is like underneath the guy's, legs, right? Which is called deep half. So either you want to get deep half, or you want to go towards the back somehow, right? But if you can't get your head lower than that person's head, so there was a time when people just weren't really good at half guard, and you could sort of get away with it. But it's a horrible position for self-defense because someone just punch you in the head because you're not closing the distance, and you're not underneath their base, and they can find your head. And so they could hit you. And then you go, okay, well, but Josh, it's just sport. Okay, great. But then a couple of years later, if you did that, people figured out grips to absolutely kill you for staying in between. There is no, in half guard, unless you're going back to another guard in the sport, you really can't most people cannot hang out in half guard too long unless they close the distance. Yeah. So one of the things is that in closing the distance is important for what? Self-defense. Yeah. So you find that those principles, like maybe at first nobody actually has an answer to make you pay because you go, well, but like if you do this, but then eventually even in sport, they'll make you pay because if it's not fundamentally solid for self-defense, more often than not always, because nothing's 100% rule in jiu-jitsu, but more often than not, you'll find that eventually it won't even be legit in sport, which sucks for me because that's what I do, and that's how Danny passes my guard in the tournaments.
Well, it's funny you say that. One of the things I always talk about is, again, one of my MMA, one of my favorite MMA fighters is Big Nog, Rodrigo Nogueira. Rodrigo? Rodrigo Nogueira. Yeah. Sorry, I was going to say Algeria, but it's Rodrigo. Yeah. And he's the guy who actually created, who basically put half guard on the map when it came to, MMA fighting. However, that being said, Big Nog is a world-class jiu-jitsu MMA fighter. And he's only one of a handful of guys who've been able to, pull off the half guard oriented techniques.
Him and Damian Maia.
Yeah, Damian Maia, we can't forget.
Yeah, but Maia's different because Maia's going to half guard for the single leg takedowns.
Yeah.
Like very specifically, whereas Nogueira, the real threat was him closing guard on you.
Yeah.
So like Nogueira being like having his head higher than your head. So like the position I'm saying, don't do it for MMA. And then the other thing was Nogueira, unlike most people, can actually he has a crazy grip strength for holding your wrists.
Yeah.
So he would tie up your wrists, and then the danger was that he'd shoot a triangle on you if you denied him the close guard.
Yeah.
And then you also didn't want him to get the close guard. So if you threw a punch at him, you better hope it landed and hurt him. If it did not, and the thing is, he could also like a car ran him over and he lived.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Maybe even train the next day. No, I'm just kidding.
It wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, I mean, until they said no, you got to go and get it checked. But he's a special human. Him and his twin brother Rogerio, and so I mean that but also B, there was a huge price to pay that if you didn't land like a near knockout blow on him, that when he gave you a free shot, he was going to close the guard or the triangle on you, and you could not allow that. So a lot of people just had to say, I can't even hit the guy because the risk's not worth the reward, right? And if you hit him, you should still be like, yeah, okay, whatever. So I mean that's different. Like if some big heavyweight hits me, I mean like I talked about having Homer head, but like that's I'm not gonna I'm not gonna have my senses afterwards. And so most humans can't take those types of blows, and so you can't allow it.
Yeah, well, I mean, like Nogueira, man, that he's tough. I'm not saying that Damian Maia isn't tough. He's tough too, but Nogueira, that guy like took a punishment, a beating, and even on his worst times, he still looked like he had always a shot of winning. I mean, at one point he looked obviously unstoppable.
Yeah, I don't know. He was the guy until Fedor, Fedor Emelianenko, and interestingly enough, Fedor was so short compared to him that when Fedor, he couldn't get, it was hard for him to close the distance from guard to get his head out of the way, and so he actually Nogueira did end up paying the price for not being able to close that distance. But Damian Maia doesn't try to close guard on you. Damian Maia doesn't try to triangle you too much from the bottom. He tries to wrestle up from a half guard. And so it's a different fight. So when Nogueira allows you to not, like when he allows that space, he's threatening to close the guards or something different. So we got to get you on the technique podcast, which is something that just a shout out that we're doing a BJJ technique podcast. For sure. We'll probably multi-purpose that technique clip you showed, and then people will critique it. We'll ask the Karma Boys what do they think about the show.
Such a shit.
It's in the gi. Will they even know?
Oh my God.
Now I'm in trouble. It's like, oh man, it's like, uh-oh.
I didn't insinuate this.
Yeah. I mean, look, I'm okay. I want to be clear because there are certain guys that Spidey, I'm not talking about you. No. Kareem El-Sayed, I'm not talking about you. And then the rest don't really train in the gi. So.
Listen, just to clarify, and I want to be really straight up about this. For the most part, like guys like Spidey and stuff.
Like, they're great guys.
They're good guys. I haven't done bad. I've bumped into.
I've never actually heard you say bad things about these guys.
No, I haven't.
Even privately.
No. And you know what? Like, listen, it is what it is. Obviously, I have my differences with two certain people, and it's just because things were not on the up and up, and you know what? I'll leave it to that. And you know what? Like, it's in the past.
But let's point out the real difference. These guys like no gi.
Yeah.
And we like and so there's a thing like this. It's like if you just want to train with your buddies and you just want to train no gi, and then I just want to train in the gi. Like I tried no gi as well, but I mean like I like to train primarily in the gi.
Yeah,
it's going to be hard to bridge your differences because you're just not going to have time to talk because you like doing different things.
Yeah.
So
well, and listen, it's obviously even the point of view. Like I'm very passionate about jiu-jitsu. I love jiu-jitsu. Mm-hmm. It's in my blood. I've started when I was very young, and very fortunate that my brother was my main instructor, and I mean still my senior professor.
Nice.
And I treat him with that respect because he's the reason why I'm here. Without him, I wouldn't be who I am today, and obviously with my teachers, obviously my master Royler, he's the one who gives guidance and direction, and a lot of the very important, points of view towards the philosophy of our school, our team.
Yeah.
So, anyways.
No. We got away from it. We allowed to go too far.
I know. Sorry.
So we got to MMA, but we're gonna move it back to open mats. We're going back to open mats. So back where we left off.
Wow, we have to edit this a lot.
Well, people like it. People like the raw version of it. You know what I mean? Like it's
that's okay.
So it's, and just for the record, this is pretty much as no gi as I get.
Yeah.
I'm wearing gi pants but a t-shirt. I also consider when I'm just wearing regular street clothes that also to be no gi. No, I'm just kidding. I got love for no gi. We do no gi at the academy that I train out of. But anyways, and people love it. But back to it. So open mats. So it used to be that open mats were a sort of come one come all, but the main open mat is just an inside the academy open mat or an affiliation open mat where it's like surrounding academies with the same instructor lineage.
Maybe like a closed open mat, I guess you can say.
Yeah. There's a closed open mat's the most common, but there's an open mat and what we see today, a lot of the open mats are run by smaller schools that don't have enough students to create like a lot of training. Because they have 10, 20 people that are really consistent, and so when they don't want to face the same 10 or 20 people, they really need somebody else to come if they want to do like a hard session. Mm-hmm. So that's one group. Then there's another group that I feel are like almost like entrepreneurs with the open mat. Like, if there's a charity fundraiser, let's hold the open mat at my school and try to draw as many people to come see my school. Yeah. And it's almost like a business recruitment thing. So anyways, which is another issue, right? So we can
That's a touchy subject.
It's a touchy subject, right? So we'll even get back to that about the using it as a promotion. But one of the things is this trust is that you send your students in, and different schools have different things. In the school I go to, you don't do heel hooks in the gi. Yeah. Right? You don't, and you don't toe hold people when you're wearing a gi if they are not wearing a brown or a black belt. Yeah. You don't toe hold them. You know what I mean? Like, if you want to tell them, if you're a brown or black belt and you want to tell a purple or blue belt, like, if you know how to toe hold and you can catch it, go for it. That's your prerogative. But unless there's an actual conversation and agreement amongst the two people, you really shouldn't be toe holding. The way my school is, I can't tell you what's right for you. Some people will go back to the roots of the Darwinian time, the tough guy, and all that stuff. And we can, and that's fair. Like, I don't want to shut it down for future podcast guests. They can definitely they can share that opinion. I got to come on there and show Josh what's what. And that's cool. First you can teach me some jiu-jitsu. Like, that's what we started today's session. At least for the video version, there'll be a technique where Danny shows the choke where he's caught me at least 5 times, if not 6. In tournament, because you have one sort of straight arm lock, 2-on-1 arm lock from inside my half guard, and I think the rest were all that choke. So so we've fought either 6 or 7 times. Yeah,
it's sort of my, like, for me, that guard pass is my favorite. I'm a half guard guy a lot, so it sort of fits into my game. So and it's funny because I practice a lot with my guys. So so we sort of anticipate.
Yeah, and I wanted to feel that choke one last time, but only that one last time. But
it wasn't that tight. Come on.
No. It was tighter today than it was in the tournaments, even though you didn't put it on all the way.
Relaxed. That's
I also wasn't turning over to try to get out. But either way, I was going to go out in the tournament, so I need to tap. But so anyways, so today we have these open mats. We don't have the common etiquette agreements, and so then sometimes what happens is people get over, come from different schools, and people get, and people can get hurt. So I'm actually not a fan of it. I'm also not a fan because not all schools have the same cleanliness habits. Yeah. So at the school I go to, depending on how many sessions of the day, that's how many times, how many blocks of sessions. It could be sometimes there's 3 or 4 classes in a row, but after that the mats get disinfected. Yeah. So I'm of the opinion, and I remember when I used to have a wrestling mat at my school, you could not put disinfectant on the mat for well over a month, and then you'd still be able to find lots of residue of the disinfectant on the mat. That's how often we had previously put disinfectant. There was actually a film of disinfectant on the wrestling mat.
That's good.
So we use something like 1 grade below what they use in the hospitals. Yeah. Quato 44 for those of you scoring at home.
Yeah. I've heard of that. Yeah. Yeah. That's where we use something very similar. So. Yeah.
So we'll talk to Danny about getting the good brand. No, I'm just kidding. Danny's gonna be like, no, this is the Gracie of my top brand. So all right. It's like the pure waters. But anyways, back to the open mat thing. Back to the open mat thing. So, I'm always kind of concerned about safety issues when these things happen. And recently, I saw you on the internet talking about an open mat situation. Could you explain what you think happened? Because I want to preface this that sometimes when we get information third hand, your instructor, you can only act on what the person told you. Well, so based on the information you received, the context that you understand to be, Explain the situation.
Well, they were. I had two of my blue belts who, they've been with me a very long time. They wanted to go to a charity seminar. A gentleman passed away.
Yeah, very sad.
Yeah, very sad.
Rest in peace, Stephen Shipinkus.
Yeah, rest in peace. And it's obviously unfortunate. And obviously I'm all for it. I like my guys supporting. A lot of different, obviously, charity causes. We support a lot of charity causes as well. But anyways, so they went, and one of my students, the blue belt, was training with a white belt, a young guy, 17, stuff, and they were tinkering around with footlocks, but nothing crazy. And then the guy basically just slapped on, like a heel hook from what I've been explained. And and my student didn't have time to react and pop, he popped his one of his ligaments in his knee and hobbled off. It's and again, anyways, he manages to change. He leaves and stuff like that. And like I said, the host, they did nothing wrong, And so I would really want to stress that. And I've already reached out to the host, the owner of the club and stuff, and he apologized. There's nothing to apologize. He did nothing wrong, However, that being said, obviously, when we do open mats, it's almost like some people know the rules and some people don't know the rules, and sometimes it's hard to explain to people that something that's sort of unofficial or not really on the up and up. You have to say, hey guys, if you're training in a gi, you train like IBJJF rules. So if you're a white belt, you shouldn't be doing toe holds, heel hooks, or any of that nonsense. And let's just be quite honest. There's a reason why they're not allowed in tournaments. When you're doing when it's an amateur status, you got kids going in there just for a piece of metal, a trinket.
Yeah.
It's not worth getting your knee ripped out. I'll tell you, my student actually hasn't been able to work properly for the last 3 weeks.
Oh my gosh!
So for him,
so we're probably have to do a fundraiser for a student if it goes that much longer.
Exactly, So and he's a good kid. He's a welder and stuff like that. So he's on his knees and stuff. So obviously that poor guy is in a lot of pain, and then he's now not able to train the way he wants to. He's hobbling around, this poor guy. So I was pretty pissed and so obviously I always try to obviously keep my sanity, because I used to go off back in the old days, and now I'm much more older and wiser. But this I felt, and the instructor of the gentleman contacted me and apologized, and I said, listen, I get it. One of the biggest problems today, and I'm sure you'll pretty much agree with me, is that a lot of students today with the internet, YouTube, online training, there's a lot of people out there that are learning so much stuff at home, and I want to try this on the mats, and a lot of times it's conflicting with the safety aspects of the training, and a lot of people end up getting hurt, and a lot of it is because of outside influence. And again, I'm not going to be the type of person saying, no, don't do that, but at the same time, you've got to understand. That's why I'll tell students, if you've learned something, show it to me first, and I'll tell you if it works or not, or maybe this isn't the time for you. Maybe when you're a blue belt or a purple belt, then do that crazy technique.
I mean, you're a head instructor, so I mean, it's definitely you have that experience of being it. And just for those of you that are, maybe just beginning students in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, there's a huge difference between being an instructor and a head instructor in terms of the level of responsibility and the things you have to think about in terms of, because you set the tone for all the etiquette, all the safety protocols, and the curriculum, what to learn and when to learn it. And so people sometimes think that you're trying to hold a student back, but I mean, I've seen the information on YouTube, and one of the things is that there's also some there's a lack of a safety conversation often, and in terms of the clips you see, so not explaining hey, this is these like heel hooks, which are basically it's like if someone grabbed your ankle and pulled backwards, but instead they also scoop your heel and turn it to the side. Yeah. Right, and
twisting motion.
And the problem with the heel hook is that if you don't even know you're in a heel hook, you could be the person that hurts yourself, and if you don't know to roll out against it, or you roll the wrong way against it, so if you don't have that experience, it gets real bad. And the thing is, unlike a lot of other submissions where there's time to tap, sometimes you don't actually need to tap into a heel hook until it pops. Yeah. And that pop isn't really a pop; it's the tearing of something that you need to not have teared. And so, some human beings heal really well. Some human beings walk around without ACL ligaments, and that they're okay. But This actually brings me back to one interesting point that you brought up, but maybe intentionally. Like Danny tries to act like, I'm just like, but he said, he's talking about the IBJJF rules, which are the International Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Federation rules, and how they keep us safe, and how some schools have that agreement and some schools don't. And so some students don't have that agreement because they're just watching YouTube clips, plus their school never really talked to them about it. And I think even like my school is probably, like, I wouldn't say guilty of, but it could probably do even more to like make sure all the students know about the IBJJF rules and why the IBJJF rules are the IBJJF rules. And so one of the things that brought up is that schools that don't compete are more dangerous to train at, as a general rule. And I know that sounds like, in my opinion, and it's very anecdotal. I don't have data on this, but there used to be a person that I used to go to for some physical treatment, and she had a lot of clients from another school, a rival school actually, to my school in downtown Toronto. And that school doesn't compete much. They don't have too many, especially at that time, they have like almost no competitors, and the people there in general don't train as hard or as many hours. But man, did they have a lot of injuries. And so one time I talked to a guy about how he got hurt, and he was blaming his training partner, and I could tell by the way he described it, the injury was entirely his fault. Because he was doing weird things, sticking out his legs in weird ways, in weird scenarios, and then still trying to like fight positions that were long over, and he was getting injured. And so it's interesting because like if you don't have rules about safety, like if you don't know about the IBJJF rules and you don't have a separate safety conversation, then you're doing a lot of things. Like there's a lot of sort of positions where your knee can get torqued that sort of against the IBJJF rules. And if you know that, you're like, oh, so it's really bad when my knee gets torqued. Yeah, because there's a huge risk of injury. Oh, okay. And then you apply that to the rest of your training. And so I've always found that schools that like really don't compete much tend to have higher injury rates than you would think.
Yeah, I mean, my school again, like we compete, but we don't have heavy competitors.
I mean the instructor too. I'm talking about like there's not even like this understanding of instruction. I'm talking about like, and it's not to say that there's something like, I'm just saying that they can have a safety conversation with their students and they can fix this. It's not that the instructor now has to go out and compete or they're not legitimate or that kind of thing. But you get this interesting thing that there really is a value to really going deeply in jiu-jitsu and not just throwing it out there I actually had a great instructor back in the day who literally would watch something on YouTube and then go out and teach it. Shout out to Cesar Hezegals. And he's the guy that gave me my purple belt. And he really understands jiu-jitsu at a very good level, solid jiu-jitsu. But he would just go out there and just sort of throw it out there, and so he wasn't really, like, in my view, I could be wrong, he wasn't really like thinking all the time about this stuff. Now he was so smart that maybe he actually gave a lot of information to his students. Yeah. But if you were not as smart as Cesar, and didn't, you might have, and you were just sort of watching something on YouTube, you've been doing jiu-jitsu for a while, it's cute, you throw it out there, you might not like have those safety conversations with your students. And I think that's why common etiquette is the most important thing. Remember the province of Ontario, we used to have like these tournaments that were like they were grappling tournaments. They weren't jiu-jitsu tournaments, they were grappling tournaments. And we had grappling tournaments until 2009. Yep. Right? And what it was is that if you didn't have a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu lineage, you could compete. And lo and behold, most of the injuries would happen when a non-Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu lineage guy was competing, because they would slam people, they would do leg locks that weren't right, they would, they just didn't have etiquette that the Jiu-Jitsu guys had.
Well, I mean, years ago I was on the board for the Ontario Jiu-Jitsu Association, Canadian Jiu-Jitsu Association, same thing. Sorry, I'm starting over there. And you'd be amazed when we started looking at statistics. The statistics towards gi and no gi for injuries are staggering. You would get 5 times the amount of competitors in gi, and you would get 5 or 6 injuries. Then you would get no gi, and you would get a fifth of it, and you would get 40 injuries. And it would be like 8 times higher with a fifth of the amount of competitors. And the amount of injuries, because again, a lot of the people training no-gi, and again, it's not a knock towards no-gi, it's just that you get a lot of people who come from MMA backgrounds or MMA schools that like to do no-gi, and they just go balls to the wall.
Yeah, and so this was magnified by not even having jiu-jitsu etiquette. Yeah. And I mean, I remember doing a NAGA tournament. I don't know if you've ever heard of this, the North American Grappling Association, NAGA. And there were Battle by the Beach, and I was in a match with a Jiu-Jitsu black belt, but not a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt.
Japanese Jiu-Jitsu.
Japanese Jiu-Jitsu, perhaps some type of Jiu-Jitsu.
Okay.
I don't and I was a purple belt. So first of all, weird, but that this was allowed. But the guy was about to get swept, so he literally grabbed my foot and started grabbing an individual toe and trying to break it.
Oh my god.
Right, and so I had to tap because he was honestly going to break my toe. And then the whole crowd was screaming that the guy had done something illegal, so which meant the referee was about to disqualify the guy. But NAGA doesn't even have etiquette or rules, really. Well, okay, I shouldn't say that. I don't want to get sued. NAGA's some of the NAGA referees didn't really know that, like, once they feel like they should disqualify somebody, that's probably what they should do. I don't even know what the NAGA rules are regarding this. Maybe it's just my ignorance. Okay, sorry, NAGA. Anyways, so I look at the referee and say, nah, he's mine. I want him.
Yeah.
let me have him. And so the referee allowed it to continue. Now, who won the match is inconsequential. But the point was that, like, with no etiquette, he apologized to me afterwards. That I honestly thought a toe hold was holding the toes.
Oh god.
Right? So I mean, because he knew about these locks that he'd seen on YouTube, but he didn't even know what they were because he didn't remember it correctly. In the heat of the moment, it's like a toe hold, you must be allowed to bend the toes. And of course, if you listen to the audio of a toe hold instructional, some people will emphasize the bending of the toes, but it's all the toes together, not.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, do not use this portion of the podcast to learn any technique, okay? Because it's broken telephone, and also I could be describing it wrong. Now, Danny's a 4th degree black belt under Royce Gracie, and he'd probably describe it well. But I definitely, when I'm talking, don't take any of that, too literal. Like Josh explained to me how to do a toe hold. Now I'm a toe hold master. No.
You gotta insert the disclaimer right here.
Right here.
This on the camera.
So I mean, like that etiquette thing was huge, and so. And it was one of those things that, like, we now have tournaments in Ontario, and I'm going to ask you to. This is the deeply political part of the broadcast.
Shoot.
Are we better off having Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu only tournaments versus the grappling tournaments that allowed other styles in?
To be quite honest with you, I get a touchy subject, but like I started off with grappling only tournaments only because there was no real unity. Now that there is unity, I see that it's the only way to go. I think when everyone falls into the same banner of rules, you're going to find that it's going to be safer, which it is now, more safer than ever. I know when I bring kids to a tournament, adults to a tournament, I know that the referees are properly trained. Like back in the days, the archaic days where you'd sit there and go through a rules meeting for 20 minutes, and again, and actually I gotta credit George for this, because George is one of the guys who was instrumental in helping, and I have to give him that credit, because it's important.
He fought for it hard.
He did, and you know what, like, a passionate guy, and I have to give him that respect, because he's the one who, and again, it's good to have someone who has that experience from Brazil and sees it the way it is and say, no, this is the way we do it, pre-registration, stuff like that, like the modern times, obviously, like, we're so blessed to have that kind of technology that now that we have everything ready to go, whereas back in the old days, you get everyone to come in 8 o'clock in the morning, like, it's like, and sometimes...
And you compete at like 7 p.m.
Yeah, and no joke, and honestly, yeah, I had a student one time show up at a tournament 7 o'clock in the morning, and it's I'm not knocking these people, it's just how they did it, right? And then basically he sat around the whole day.
The best was when like one guy would weigh in for another dude, because like the weigh-ins and the mats were separate, so like you would get like a piece of paper for your card. People do this at Grappler's Quest all the time.
Yeah,
and
you lose it.
Yeah, like I competed at 120 pounds. No, just kidding. But it's like, yeah, just 8 pounds.
Outside,
but it's like literally, unless somebody like me tried to claim that they're like 140 pounds, you wouldn't be able to catch them within 20 pounds. Like if you're like 180 but you're competing at 160, if you got somebody to sort of like go and weigh in for you, they get their card signed, they give you back the card. Anyways,
yeah.
So there are all these weird shenanigans that could go on.
And we've caught people doing that before.
But the point, the George you're talking about is George Brito, correct? George Brito, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So there we go. And then
shout out to Professor George.
Shout out to George. I mean, Danny and I were at the same meeting where the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu heads were trying to figure out how to run tournaments in the future, and George knew that like, I think the other guys, they weren't really against going to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu tournaments, like the proper format, but they were like scared of the change because they were wondering whether there'd be enough support for it, because back then tournaments weren't like they are now. Because now, like back then, a big tournament would have been like Jocelyn's, and Jocelyn's would maybe get 500 competitors.
Yeah.
Although some divisions would have 70 people in it, so you'd have something like which is crazy.
Middleweight white belt. Yes.
Well, it wasn't white belt. It was 1 year and under.
Yeah, sorry, 1 year.
1 year and under. I got some funny stories about the Jocelyn's tournament, and then we'll get to safety on that. And I mean, nothing against the Jocelyn's tournament, but like Jocelyn's tournament was the largest one, so there's more examples of what a grappling tournament would look like from the Jocelyn's perspective. And Jocelyn's was the tournament in Ontario from the time I started, or for a year or two after I started. So from 2002, I think they started their own gym throwing tournaments. Yeah. And then to about 2008, it was about the Jocelyn's tournament. 2009. It became about the proper Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu tournaments. I don't even know what happened to the Jocelyn's tournaments, but Rick and Jeff Jocelyn did, and Jeff continues to do amazing things for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu here in the province of Ontario and Canada, and is an amazing ambassador. So we're just talking about the Jocelyn's tournaments, and basically I'm saying is Jeff, if you ever come on, don't be mad, don't be mad. But the Jocelyn's tournament was a really good case in point that people be waiting around all day. So you don't really want to recommend to people to come do it because it's not fun.
Well, I mean, and again, this is what's important for people to understand. It's not a knock towards Jocelyn's. It's not.
Or any of the grappling tournaments. Because you know who else used to run grappling tournaments back then? Bravado.
Yes.
Your tournaments were smaller, and they weren't, and some of the issues I would have with Jocelyn's I would not have had with the Bravado tournaments. Yeah. But just one more thing I want to say, because there were those guys in that meeting, right? And that's where George really fought for it. Yeah. And my contribution was slipping on a wet spot and nearly breaking my back. It was a sushi place.
Man, you brought that up. My God, I can't believe it.
Yeah. They were really making the floor slippery right behind us too. So we got up.
I never seen your feet go over your head like that, man. Like, wow. Now I know why you don't want to, when you fight me, you don't want to.
I pull guard.
You pull guard right away. I'm sorry, man.
I mean, no, there's.
Funny. I'm sorry. You're okay. Now, not that to be said, I was severely concerned because you fell. But once you got up and you're okay, it was a little funny. But
it was funny. But I will say this. I did a poor break fall, and so I wasn't
I falled okay.
I know, but so even when you break fall, you just don't get broken, but it still hurts. Yeah. And so I was definitely hurt, but it's okay. It's one of those things when you see it, it's hilarious. When it happens to you, it's scary in the moment. And me, I was just like, why did these people put so much water right behind us while we were seated?
Yeah.
They could have waited. Anyways. That said, at that meeting, there were guys that were concerned about just getting enough support for tournaments moving forward, because they were the ones trying to throw tournaments. They just didn't want to lose their shirts, because back then you didn't really make much money from Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu tournaments. Today, a good tournament, are you still a partner on the GTA Classic?
Yeah. That's my tournament along with Tony.
Yeah. And so this is the thing. So these guys just didn't want to lose their shirts for trying to throw a tournament for and they didn't know if people. I think they were even more concerned about. They didn't want to lose the support they were getting from these MMA gym types and the Kumo Jiu-Jitsus of the world, and this type of thing. And then there was, and then the other issue was pre-registration, that they weren't used to doing it, so that it was a brave new world.
Well, just to add to that, I remember a huge backlash about that. They hated the fact that, why do we have to do pre-registration for? I'm like, well, it's just going to make things a lot easier. Because until you actually see them with all the registration at 7 o'clock, and then you have a draw master with 5 tables going across, and then you see them trying to do this bracket within an hour, which is insane. Now it's just so easy. Everything's done literally the week before. Like I said, we went in the right direction, and I think we shut up a lot of people. And again,
the tournaments got bigger. That's what
immediately.
And people like them better now than before, because the wait times are drastically less. Now it's if you wait 45 minutes for your first fight, you're all upset. Yeah. Back then, if you would be mad if your fight happened 45 minutes from when it was supposed to, because you're used to it happening 5 hours later. So you'd be like, no, I just went for lunch. It's but your division was at 1, and they started your match at 1:46. Yeah, but they never do that. Yeah. I was 3 or 4 o'clock, I was going to be back. Yeah. So it was a crazy thing. So one of the things I want to say is shout out to, I think a guy that deserves a lot of credit for the tournaments in the province besides George. I think George is the guy that sort of put people in the right direction and had the courage to be no, this will work, because George saw how it had worked elsewhere. Yeah. But Tony Isaacs, a student of yours,
yes,
is the main driving force of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu tournaments in Ontario, in terms of organizing the sport. And, I'm not going to say that I always agreed with him, but I will say that time has shown that the job he has done has not hurt the sport, but helped grow it.
Yeah.
And so, big shout out to your student,
Yes.
Tony Isaacs,
Yeah.
who is the head referee, basically, or the guy head of a lot of these things for the OJA, and also a board member of the CJA, which is connected to the international sort of federation part of the Olympic movement, which is one of the reasons why Ontario, unlike Quebec, has Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu tournaments.
Yes.
And that's why we need to get some people from Quebec on the show to talk about that. I interviewed someone that will remain anonymous, and he joked that it was because they were French, so that's why they weren't having tournaments. He's from Quebec. This guy was saying it. He was saying it. However, he was joking. So we want to get some serious commentary.
Listen, I think honestly, if you want my honest opinion, and again, I want to first before I say anything, I do want to give a shout out to Tony. Tony's been one of my students for a long time. He's the person who actually, when I was on the board, he took over, and it was 2009 because I was there from 2003 to 2008. I was on the board for 5 years. And you had to understand, it was like, I'm the one who had to basically really get these guys comfortable, especially the Japanese Jiu-Jitsu side of the association. And they're great people, and you have to have the right type of mentality and the right type of approach towards those types of people, because you have to look at it from the perspective of, like, a lot of them felt threatened. They thought that we would come in and just basically wipe them out, and it's not the case.
Let's explain this for viewers a little bit, if it's okay if I throw some context, and you just correct me if I'm wrong, inaccurate, or whatever. So basically, there's the province of Ontario said you had it, and the law has changed on this actually, but you need to have a PSO or a national, so provincial sports organization, or you had to have a national sports organization. So an example of a national sports organization would be like Canada Track and Field, Canada Soccer, these kinds of things. Or you needed to have a provincial organization like the Ontario Boxing Association or something like this to do amateur sport that they felt was combative. And so combative, wrongfully, I think, according to the Criminal Code of Canada, some people thought that the Criminal Code captures things like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I would argue it does not. But of course, we did throw a tournament, a next gen tournament, and the police helped us, sponsor it, and nobody got arrested at a time when there was no sanctioning. However, we can talk about this a couple of years now. And the senator who wrote the law agreed with me. So the senator that wrote that helped write the section I think it's like 82 or something like that, 82 or 83?
Section 83.
83, right, sent a letter of support for the legal position that I believe exists. But anyways, so back in the day, the provincial government under, I think it's like the tourism and recreation?
Ministry of Tourism and something.
Recreation, maybe?
Recreation.
Yeah. Anyways, one of the ministries has control of the amateur side of combative sports, and they say that you need to be a PSO or have an NSO, right? So provincial organization or national. So the provincial organization was something called the CJA, which eventually, because it's really a provincial thing, had to have a Ontario name. But anyways, for the longest time, it was the Japanese Jiu-Jitsu, which is like sort of stand-up stuff with kicks and punches and some stuff that we'd recognize as Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and then there was like the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu style tournaments. And so the provincial government forced us to fold into one organization. First of all, we were one organization. Then the Jiu-Jitsu guys for a few months were their own separate organization. And the province said, you know what? I want you guys to fold, the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guys, we want you guys to fold back together again. And so they did. And it was at the same time of this backdrop, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu was gaining in popularity, and the Japanese style of Jiu-Jitsu, as far as I can tell, has dramatically lost popularity. And so they weren't wrong to be somewhat fearful of being taken over, because eventually the membership was going to be mostly Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guys, and they just didn't want to be voted out of existence.
Yeah.
Now, interestingly enough, when you want to be the international federation, so basically the provincial government changed the way they interpreted rules. They said you've got to really be part of an international movement that attempts to connect to the Olympic Games, and there's only one organization that does it. I think it's the
JJIF. Jiu-Jitsu International Federation.
Yes, and so they actually required you to have both. so their fears end up not being founded, but they couldn't have known that until that was required, until the government required.
Well, that's why it started coming up, though. That's why actually we didn't have tournaments for a while, and that's because the government basically said, hey, you know what, you don't have your ducks in a row, well, we're going to shut you down, and unless you find someone who is going to represent you internationally, because, so this is a most confusing part, and this is what we've had a PSO for years, like literally since 1967, some crazy freaking time, right? And for the most part, it was kind of running under the radar. And then obviously when Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu became very popular, obviously, and then UFC basically, that's what kind of slingshot it into the main view of the government. And so
twice. Once in the 90s and again with Ultimate Fighter.
And so anyways, so this is the crazy part. So you need a national sport organization, NSO, and then you need a PSO. So this is the crazy part. So check this out. So to have a PSO, you need an NSO. But if you don't have an NSO, you need a PSO. So you need 7 provinces.
Yes.
To have a provincial sport organization, to have
an NSO.
To have an NSO. It's so stupid.
So basically they chicken and egg you.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Which comes first? And you can't actually do it because you can't create an NSO because you don't have enough people. Yeah. Because you don't have a PSO. Now, technically, they can say like if you got enough people to sign up for a national organization, even if it's just out of one province, I think you need three or four provinces. Yeah, there's some or 7 or whatever, but it could just be one person from each province, but then like 4,000 people from Ontario or something like that. So they basically you couldn't do it because you couldn't have one because you didn't have the other, and so it's like you need to have a PSO. Okay, but in order to have a PSO, we need to have an NSO, right? And they're like, okay, so this you go to the NSO people, and the NSO people are like, you need at least 7 PSOs.
And he said, and I remember sitting on a meeting on this, and I'm like looking at the person, and I'm like, are you serious? Are you listening to yourself? You're basically telling me this is like a Kobayashi Maru mentality, like this is a no-win scenario. How are we gonna figure this out, right? And so, anyways. And this is why they looked at the JJIF, because they were the organization that was open, and actually they have a connection to the Abu Dhabi organization, and so they have a lot of backing from Abu Dhabi themselves. And you know what, they run a really good tournament. I haven't been there personally, but everybody who's been there and who competed at the last tournament was like blown away. Yeah,
and so this was another case of George to the rescue again, because George was the guy that the JJIF initially trusted to, because there's some rep for the JJIF, and it just sort of was, the guy was just like lying dormant, so when they had to replace him, George was the guy that they trusted. But then they said, hey, bring all these other groups. There's like 2 other groups that were, bring everybody together and make it happen. And so then, in a way, George kind of first he saved us by getting us to do tournaments kind of correctly, and in a way that would lead to more people enjoying them and doing them. And then he helped get the JJIF on board.
I mean, listen, like from introducing barricades, to the tables and I obviously what tables and stuff, but I mean the score clocks and stuff. Like we actually, I remember they had the
flips.
The flips. Oh my God!
It actually cost us over $1,000, maybe a couple $1,000 to get those flips made, because we got run over on the price, but we just needed them so bad.
And like I said, like these are all important things, and again, you got to give credits due. And it's, I think sometimes people don't understand that, or when they don't understand the history, and then obviously a lot of that stuff gets forgotten. I can talk to you about the 90s and stuff, and how my brother was one of the first guys who run tournaments, and my brother was almost doing like a no holds barred thing. Someone was asking me about that, like, hey man, we had hair pulling, hair grabbing, and stuff like that, and the government's like, whoa, and I remember.
So basically, when you see like the Jean-Claude Van Damme movies, like Kumite, that's the Sol Moroney style tournament.
and you know what, it was actually a very brave thing, but again, like I said, like we had no idea. We thought, let's do it, right? They're doing this UFC.
Oh, look, I used to think, my reference point was like, I saw what was happening in Ontario, and I saw how much better Grappler's Quest was. Yeah. And then so I was like, well, we should at least move towards Grappler's Quest. And then, you see how the IBJJF does it. And then you're like, oh, that's the thing. You know what I mean? Like, once you, and it's like, and then people will always complain, but it's, anyways, so basically George and Tony rescued the sport a second time, and without guys, and people like sometimes knock the guys that do all the administrative stuff, and they tell a lot, because the government, what they didn't understand is the government was giving guys like Tony demands, and all those sport jiu-jitsu guys, Japanese jiu-jitsu guys, demands. And so the Brazilian jiu-jitsu guys were like, oh, these guys are just like bureaucrats. It's like, yeah, but that's what you have to do, because that's the law.
Now, the other thing I gotta be shout out to is actually the president of the OJA that's Doug Knispel. Doug Knispel's a Japanese Jiu-Jitsu black belt, trained for a long time.
Yeah.
Massive respect for him, and actually he's actually got a very good business mindset. He's actually a very good speaker. He's actually very. I think he works for. He's up in Rogers. He works for Rogers as well. But anyways,
he's the guy that like taps your phones or something. I don't know. Just kidding.
But he's actually the guy who sat in a lot of those meetings, and you know what? He was actually one of the guys who actually really was pushing for both. And
he's a good guy.
Yeah, and he's one of the guys. He's actually like he's not a BJJ guy. He's a Japanese Jiu-Jitsu guy, but he's like, yes, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is important. It's a part of what we are, and we have to embrace it. And and he supports it. And
he's like basically a very ego-free guy.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
and that's and we as a president, you need a president like that. And honestly, like when I found out when he became president, I was like, oh my God, thank God. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm not saying that. And I'm not saying any other past presidents.
But you realize that he could bridge the gap in a way that the others hadn't done yet.
Yeah, because and not because those people weren't bad. It's just because his approach was more of a let's really look at this with open eyes, open arms, and let's really try and embrace this. Why? Because I think the association, and he's obviously younger mindset and stuff like that, and he sees that this is the sign of the times. This is what's going to happen. This is what's going to help us, right? Now, like could the sport jiu-jitsus like the Japanese sport jiu-jitsu could it evolve? Absolutely. Actually, at one point. It was they almost set the rules to be almost amateur MMA, and everyone was going bananas over that. And obviously, because amateur MMA is the craze at the time. Today, obviously, you don't see that anymore. It's just kind of like it's kind of fizzled out, to be quite. And that's but jiu-jitsu's here to stay.
Yeah. So let's just have a little brief break on the jiu-jitsu talk. So I once saw a MMA fight on YouTube. Jason Godsey versus Daniel Moroney.
Oh my God.
And so what I'm going to say is that it is my conjecture that this has saved you from me attempting a Kimura on you in tournaments, because that is so.
It was a hammerlock. It was an Americana. My God, that Americana.
But the Americana spun around 360.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh my God.
It wasn't a Kimura.
Yeah, no, it was Americana. It looked like a Kimura at the end.
Okay, so whoa.
So I got to tell you a story about this.
Okay? Tell the story.
Okay, so
first of all, Jason Godsey had like several hundred fights.
Yeah.
In MMA, so like one of the true like legends of fighting before the UFC became like a big thing.
Yeah.
Go on.
All right. So and it's funny because I've had some haters. Some people yapping online about it. But anyways, I'll clarify it. So years ago I got contacted by Extreme Fighting Challenge, who the promoter is Monty Cox. And he says, hey, I got basically a 4-man tournament. Everybody's got less than 5 fights, or no fights at all. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. See, that was my first mistake,
keep going.
Believing that. I should have asked around, hey, this Monty. Anyways, so
You think that was a bad step? Can I interject for 1 sec?
Okay, go ahead.
So I heard a story from my instructor George about Marengo.
Yes.
And so I'm gonna probably tell the story wrong, but the basic idea of the story was he was told, hey, we got this fight for you in Curitiba, get on a bus and come over.
Yeah, I heard about this.
And don't worry, the guy's like a little bit bigger than you, a little bit taller than you. He's just a kickboxer, just a skinny kickboxer. Take him down, easy money, get on the bus, go back home. Yeah. This is back in the day when they didn't wear gloves, just hand wrapped, I think. Oh, and so you've heard the story too. And something to the effect that George goes to Marengo. And staring across from Marengo when they get in the ring is a young Anderson Silva.
Yes.
So if you think you've been set up, Daniel.
Oh no.
But anyways, I mean, it's sort of like if I agreed to like an amateur MMA fight and then staring across as like Fedor or Brock Lesnar. Anyways, go on. Yeah. So go on with your story.
Yeah. So anyways, so obviously I started training for the fight, and obviously me like an idiot. I go and fight with my gi on like an idiot. So
no. That is true jiu-jitsu.
That's true jiu-jitsu.
And if the other fighters were real fighters in MMA too, they'd insist on wearing the gi.
So
to this day.
So here's the cool part, right? So a lot of people don't realize that Jason Godsey was in this division, and also in the other division, fighting some poor guy who had no business being in there either, was Jeremy Horn. So here I got Jason Gotze with at least 15 fights and Jeremy Horn with at least 30 fights.
No. You're saying he only had 15 fights? Because I mean, Gotze like retired with like 250 to 250 fights.
Yeah. Apparently at that time in 1997, he only had like 15 fights. But obviously he had way more. And Jeremy Horn, even I knew who he was at the time. Like, that's Jeremy Horn for crying out loud, right?
Yeah, didn't Jeremy Horn like once submit Chuck Liddell?
Yes,
in the UFC.
Yep.
In the UFC.
In the UFC.
Yeah, Jeremy,
the guillotine, right?
Some type of choke, man. I think it might have been like some type of head and arm type choke, or
So anyways, I'm fighting in Battle Creek, Michigan. So if you don't know that place, it's really historic place. Anyways, so we're in this arena and it's like 10-foot high. Like, it looked like they took it from a penitentiary, this fence. It's like a wrought wire almost. I'm surprised they didn't put like...
So basically they told you it was an arena.
Yeah. Okay. So they put this fence...
But all the people there were wearing the same uniform.
Yeah. They're all wearing orange jumpsuits. Anyways, so it's my first time being there, and obviously, like, I've got people screaming, like, kill him. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm freaking out. And it was Pat Miletich, who's the referee at the time, which was actually pretty cool. I actually felt
future UFC champion Pat Miletich,
Yeah.
Miletich Fighting Systems, trainers of people like Tim Sylvia and Robbie Lawler.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so, anyways, I remember going in there, and the great thing about me wearing the gi is that you see in the fight that actually Jason actually grabbed onto me. I tried to throw him, and that was a mistake. But you know what? Like, I have to say, that particular fight changed who I was. I changed my personality. I was more of like a kid. I was 22 years old. I didn't know any better. So I walked in a boy, walked out a man after, right? And I got, kneed in the head a couple of good times. I think that's probably what, woke me up. But anyways.
So brain damage, you're saying, is how you define.
Yeah. So anyways, going back to Monty Cox and stuff. So Monty says, oh yeah. So, he's telling me, okay, there's only, these guys only have that. So we find out Jason Gotze and Jeremy Horn. So we obviously find out these guys have way more fights than 5. And he's like, well, I'm going to pay you $300, and I'll pay another $200 for the gas. Take it or leave it. I'm like, well, I'm here. I might as well just fight anyways. So I did it, and it was a lesson learned. And it was funny because Monty, and I was a pretty good sport about it. And Monty actually called me about, holy shit, I say about 6 months later, saying, hey, Danny, would you like to fight? Would you like to fight? I'm like, yeah, sure. Like, who am I fighting? So, do you remember the alternate in all the UFC 4 who won the UFC? Oh my God, what's his name? His name is loading right now.
The guy from Oklahoma.
Steve Jenham. That's
Steve Jenham. Okay.
So Monty's like, hey, Danny, would you like to fight Steve Jenham in a retirement match for him? I'm like, sitting there, and I was like in good shape.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but he wanted me to go fight in Indiana, like somewhere far. I'm like, and it was like, okay, when is it? Oh, it's this Friday. It's like Tuesday night. I'm like, oh, are you kidding me? I gotta freaking, like, it's 3 days notice. This is nuts, right? So I said no. So some schmuck went and fought him and actually like beat Steve Jenham in his hometown. And this guy was like a tomato can. And this guy actually basically got on top of him, just smashed him, and he tapped, and that was it. And I'm still kicking myself because it would have been cool to beat a UFC champion at that time. So,
wow.
Yeah.
You never know because you might have tried to fight a more technical fight and it might not have worked out for you. Sometimes it's like maybe the guy took the other guy lightly.
Yeah. Well, and you know what? Like, I mean, I think I would have been happy fighting a guy like Steve Jenham, but at the time, I felt burned. I felt Monty burned me. I'm like, man, I'm gonna go in there and.
Like, they weren't bringing in the win, bro.
No, well, obviously not. I was being a filler, I was a jobber.
Oh man, I probably like the worst thing I ever did like as an agent for somebody else. I wasn't even the agent, but like there's this guy Latoro Tukas, rest in peace. He unfortunately passed away due to cancer a few years ago. But his dream was to fight MMA, and there were all these MMA tryouts at the time. This is sort of like 2006, 2007, somewhere in there. And he had missed them because of work or whatever. He's a professional. He might even had like a master's degree. But, he's doing his thing. And but he really wanted to fight. And this guy walked at 178 pounds. Okay, and he was a white belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but like a white belt who was really more of a blue belt. Like, and for MMA purposes, like he would be like a decent blue belt for the time. He knew how to defend himself a bit. And so they asked him to if he would like to do an MMA fight in TKO, which is the big organization, the organization that launched George St. Pierre, right? And so he's like, yes, I want this fight. And I go, but they're bringing in the other guys like highly ranked in like some international kickboxing and the IKF, International Kickboxing Federation's like top 10 guy there. The guy's cutting down from 210 to make 170. Latoro's cutting down from like 178, right? And they're bringing in to lose because I don't care, I just want to do it,
Yeah.
And so it was like Chris Clements from from Adrenaline.
Oh my God.
Right. So Latoro took us was a guy that like, I don't want to like he was like he was game, but he wouldn't have been one of the top 10 guys in the gym for that weight class at the time, and the gym was young. You know what I mean? Like and still Chris Clements, 40-pound weight cut. You know what I mean? And monster striking.
Yeah.
And this guy's not going to bring Chris Clements to the ground, and this guy can't strike with him. It's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
So I think Rob DiCenzo was one of the corners, and Kareem El Sayed.
Yeah.
And so Kareem, right? And Kareem, whatever else people say about Kareem, he is one of the funniest dudes ever.
Yeah.
Actually, couple stories. You'll like these. But anyways, so this one is that, and I don't want to get the story too wrong, but it was basically the idea that they go to TriStar before the fight, and Latoro's like, I'm thinking about opening my fight with like a flying knee. I want to do something for the fans. I want the fans to have some fun with it, right? I'm gonna just and so there was like David Loiseau, George St. Pierre, and who's the guy that fought Anderson Silva and Tito Ortiz? Patrick Cote.
Yeah, Patrick.
And then Jonathan Goulet. So four,
and they're row of MMA fans.
And they all told him so Kareem said, well, let me just ask these other guys what they think. And they're all like, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. Okay?
So what Kareem says, okay, do it?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. And then and Latoro actually had a hard time cutting those 8 pounds. So he's not he's not used to this.
Yeah.
Like the 8 to 10 pounds he had to cut, and he did this on less than a week's notice.
Sorry.
Yeah, or 10 or less than 10 days notice. Like it was not like a full 2 weeks. He'd have time to train. Anyway,
it sounds like a Monty Cox thing. So.
Yeah. Who knows? Maybe,
sorry, Monty. I have to be honest.
Monty Cox, Stephen Petrie. It's got these guys are promoters, right? And so and the Tompkins crew, which is now the Adrenaline crew, rest in peace, Sean Tompkins. Like they were big in the TK organization. They were popular, so they wanted those fighters to do well. Anyways, so Latoro's brought in, for this because to replace somebody else, I guess. And so he decides, by the way, I told Spidey when Latoro was having a hard time cutting this weight that he had to do a manual enema.
Oh my God.
And Spidey was so mad at me for this joke. I don't think he ever forgave me. Anyways, I don't know if he remembers it now, but so he may have forgotten about it.
He's trying to forget.
Yeah, who knows? Anyways, so Latoro makes the weight, and he decides to open with the flying knee.
Oh,
so as he opens the flying knee, he runs across the ring, opens the flying knee. Chris Clements maybe kind of jumps in the air and then knocks him out like 4 seconds. Like at the time, it was like the record for the fastest MMA knockout. In North America and professional MMA, maybe even the world at that time. And so when Latoro wakes up, Kareem's there, and he's crying. He's like, I feel so bad for the fans. And he goes, don't worry about the fans. They loved it. and then Latoro was happy. And then, I talked to Latoro after the fight. He's like, and he tried to train the next day because people don't know about concussions.
Yeah.
Which is something that I guess we should do a little public service announcement about concussions.
Oops,
be careful not to step on your training partners, and be careful when you're doing hip escapes or shrimps, which are sort of a movement down the mat, to not go so fast that you get kicked by the person in front of you.
Yeah. It's, concussions obviously, get a bad rap in the striking world and stuff, but in the jiu-jitsu world, I've had actually a couple people get concussions from, being over aggressive with guard passing, and he hits the face, they're trying to arm bar, and then basically, they wind up being too close to the wall and stuff like that, and they hit the wall. That's why it's so important to have an academy with padding, like right now where we are, there's padding all over the place, right? My academy as well.
It's basically an insane asylum.
Yeah,
just kidding.
It's a padded room.
It's a padded room. It's better. They're going for all white walls.
Yeah.
Just a note where we're filming. There's a lot of white background, but there is some blue on the walls. Just want to say we're not all white walls. We're not trying to copy the
Arkham Asylum.
The Arkham Asylum, aka Gracie My Top Woodbridge, aka Bravado Jiu-Jitsu. I'm just messing around.
It's gray walls, man. It's very institutional.
Oh, so now you're saying it's shades of gray. Huh?
Shades of
gray. all right. So back to it. No, you're saying something important before I mess it up.
No. It's and concussions are obviously. This is one of the reasons why in my academy I'm really careful with people with respect to the striking arts. That's why, for me, I don't have children under the age of 12 do any striking, or if they do any type of striking, it's pad work and stuff like that. Jiu-jitsu, same thing, like just basically very open hand stuff, like when we're doing like mock stuff. It's because it's important because
do you instruct your students to say I'm Rick James when they're trying to slap each other?
Yeah. Actually, no, I do have a guy who he does a pretty mean Rick James impersonation. But anyways, but going back to that, it's, again, safety is such an important thing, and it's sometimes overlooked when you get a lot of these MMA schools, and a lot of them, like, I'll tell you a really amazing number, and the number is 44. That's how many schools since I've been open in the Woodbridge Vaughan area have open and closed since 2000. It's 20 years. That's 44 schools in 20 years that have open and closed. And a lot of that is, fly-by-night schools and stuff.
2.2 schools per year for those of you doing the math at home.
And that's just, and that's not an ego thing. That's just basically a stat thing. And when I opened up the school, I made it very clear that I'm running this as not as just as a business, but as a passion, but also as a business as well. We have to make sure that, like anything else, we got to keep the doors open. We got to put food on the table, and these are important things. But at the same time,
safe.
Yeah, we got to be safe. So when you're having people, that's why you have to have insurance. And you have to have proper protocols, rules up on the wall, waivers, all that stuff. Like these are all things that a lot of people don't realize. I'm gonna open up a school, throw some mats down in a basement somewhere and just roll, but they don't understand all the other things in the background that are very important, that are critical for a school to be successful. And like it's no mistake for us, to be at a at a number of like 300 students,
which is by the way phenomenal.
Yeah, I mean it's nowhere near your school's numbers, but
we're not talking about my school. We're talking about your school.
No, I know.
Don't try to switch the conversation.
No, I know. No, but I know I have to give props. But again, but it's a healthy school. It's healthy, but at the same time, again, running proper classes, having proper etiquette, having a form of discipline, making sure the students understand what's going on the mats and stuff, and what is what is proper and what's improper. Listen, to have people running around and like no shirts and stuff, and and wearing like Speedos. Well, I mean, not my academy, but but you have
come on, Danny. At some point, your academy. I mean.
Well, it was at one point a very long time ago, but that's obviously we're talking like 20 something years ago. So, but to be quite honest with you, like when you have a couple of people who start getting stuff like when you have people having ringworm, impetigo, staff versus staff. It's funny, actually I had a conversation with Pat Militek about that and his academy, and I went to go shake his hand at UFC 97 in Cincinnati, and he saw I had a bandage on my arm, and he actually like freaked out. Whoa, don't touch me, man. I'm like, whoa, what are you talking about? What's that on your hand? He goes, I just had a cut on my hand. I had a bandage. Actually, I had a burn. It's like, you sure that's not impetigo or something like that? I was like, no, not at all. It's like, oh, okay. And he was like genuinely freaked out. I go, I'm asking, like, what's going on? He goes, my academy's been shut down for 3 weeks because I've had a massive staph infection going on where I've had like 5 people almost like die. I'm like,
so let's talk about this for a second.
Sure.
So, one of the things that's really interesting to me, because the academy that I'm at, but I try not to mention it by name because it has its own podcast, so it gets mentioned enough.
Yeah, of course.
But is that we have cut down, since we've eliminated striking and mixed martial arts and wrestling classes. We still have no-gi classes, which is submission wrestling, but since we've cut those classes out, our rate of skin infections is super down, and usually we can figure out who actually is the point of origin when it does happen. So there was a gentleman visiting us who got, actually recently I had my first case of ringworm in 13 years.
Wow.
And it was funny because it was right on the spot of my foot where this one guy had ankle locked me. He's the only guy that touched me, and then somebody else got arm locked by the same guy where he'd hold the grips in a certain place, and that's where he got it. Oh, and it's like, so we literally had a patient, an out-of-town patient 0. But the thing is that when you train in environments where there's a lot of no-gi stuff or a lot of striking, the sweat accumulation is really bad. So the gi and rash guards really save people. And the other thing is MMA gyms, often guys kill their immune systems for training. And so if you have a lot of people with poor immune systems, you're going to have way more skin diseases. So if you want to go to a place and you're kind of squeamish about skin diseases, you go to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu schools that focus mostly on the gi, and you will be a lot safer. Just make sure they have a protocol where they, at minimum, disinfect their mats once a day.
Oh yeah, I mean, at our school, staff issues.
Yes.
This is like in 20 years. And actually we had 2 issues actually of hand, foot, and mouth disease by adults.
Oh.
If you don't know what that is, hand, foot, and mouth is a common childhood virus or disease, whatever you want to call it. But easily treatable and stuff like that. But funny enough, we had 2 adults who had it, and they were 6 to 8 weeks apart. And actually, funny enough.
It can happen.
Yeah, and they were upset about it, but I actually told them, like, listen, guys, aside from me being there within a hazmat suit and have you scrubbed down top to bottom, it's almost impossible to track or stop that, especially when it's something that when you start looking at putting it down on paper and then you start trying to track it.
And this is something that happens at like fitness gyms a lot. People don't really talk about it. Like this happens way more often at fitness gyms. I want to be very, very. I mean, like any place where people sweat, like yoga studios, any workout space. This stuff can happen. I find Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu gyms, because we disinfect so often, we don't get as much of it, but we can't stop people when they come in from other sources. Yeah. And so that's one of the reasons why I'm not a fan of. People open mats and cross training. I think cross training can have benefits. We tell students when you're out of town traveling, like we want you to be able to train, but if you could make it into the school that I go to, we'd rather have you there.
Yeah, I agree with you, and like that's why even for us, open mats for us is only people that we know, and that we know where they're from, so we know that they're safe and they're not having bad practices. We've had some people come in from other clubs like, sorry guys, it's a closed session, come back another time. And then sometimes they mess with you, like, oh man, why'd you do that for? I'm like, look dude, you train at a club where we hear all the time there's staph infections, there's ringworm, impetigo, obviously when you say those things, it scares the BGs out of people. But when I tell people, like, look, we want to prevent it, that's why we wear rash guards under our gis, and we have, the gis are clean all the time.
I'm getting itchy just talking about this.
Yeah, I know. I'm starting to have to do this a little bit. But that's, and this is one of the other reasons why, like, and again, some people say, oh, no, Gracie Maita, they only wear white gis or blue gis, why is that? So, like, the main one in Brazil, the original academy is only white. And one of the reasons why is because of the actual hygiene, the hygiene aspect.
You can check it because everything shows up on the white gi, except for dandruff.
Yes, jingle bells. Anyways, you'll see right away, like, with a black gi, it's, if someone bled on it, someone blew their nose on it, like, especially today in this, and obviously, obviously the very, hot topic today is coronavirus and stuff. And flus and stuff. So it's easy for people who have very poor hygiene practices, don't clean their gis, or the days of like training and then stick your gi in the bag and then you let it sit there for.
Oh yeah, that's the worst. So another service announcement. So when your gi is wet, never put it in a plastic bag.
Yeah.
And if you take it in some type of gym bag, which technically might be made of plastic, we're talking about like a grocery store plastic bag, right, or anything similar to that. But you need to air it out right away. Even if you don't wash it right away, hang it out right away. Now here's a question. So Danny, do you wash your belt after every session?
This is something a lot of people ask me, and for myself, I don't. But that being said,
I've heard that.
Yeah, I don't. Nice, thanks. But that being said, I actually disinfect my belts with Lysol all the time. So every time after a training, I spray it, and so there's no issues. And I find a lot of the times when you actually wash your belt, the belt degrades faster, and I find it starts to split open. And
that's even more. That's worse.
Yeah, it's worse. So. So a lot of people do ask me, and again, when you're putting degrees on your belt and it's you're putting the medical tape on and stuff, that stuff in the washer and the dryer, it comes right off. So You know,
so we're saying, it's like, I'm a 4th degree black belt. So for all you guys out there, I mean, like, it's okay, you know, but you know, like I've got some status here, and like, you know, like it's just like, you know, it's a lot of work for me. I mean, if you don't show up with stripes on your blue belt or your white belt, nobody's gonna cry. But like, I have to put these 4 stripes back on my black belt every time, and that's a lot of tape, and I need it for my fingers.
Yeah, I need because I keep getting my fingers broken. Shout out to John Cole, love you, brother.
Yeah, I mean,
it wasn't his fault. But
no. That stuff happens. Stuff happens in tournaments, man. But he was so strong. He spun me around.
Yeah.
Like I pulled guard wrongly, and he spun me, and he closed the distance on me for the pass, and it was just on top of me. I'm like, oh man.
That's a tough move, man.
Yeah, like. Anyways, you know, Sudbury BJJ.
Yeah.
You know, if you get or is it Sudbury MMA, BJJ MMA? But anyways, John Cole, Renzo Gracie representative out of Sudbury. Awesome guy, runs a great tournament. The Budo, is it Budo Challenge or Budo something or other?
Budo Challenge.
Budo
It
Challenge.
has every August. And you know, I've been meaning to go up there. It's actually Sudbury's a beautiful place in August, and I keep.
I like the qualifier. Sudbury's a beautiful place in August.
In August.
I mean, I have a friend who lives in Sudbury. He doesn't train Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu right now, but he says it's beautiful all the time.
Well, I don't know about you, but you know, February in Sudbury, it's.
In fairness, I've never been to Sudbury in February. You do seminars there?
Yeah, actually, last year I did a seminar tour. I went to Sudbury BJJ. Who actually did, gentleman Steve Jonkins just got his black belt from Henry Gracie not long ago.
Okay, there you go.
So congratulations to him.
Yeah.
And then went down to North Bay, and I trained. I taught at Adam Gymnastics Academy, Grounded Studios, Renzo Gracie affiliate.
Nice.
You know, taught there. So it's, you know, again, great bunch of people. You know, the guys up there don't get the props.
Yeah, no, for sure, because they're up north, right? And it just doesn't get don't get the exposure. But hopefully they'll come on the podcast and we'll talk to them. Yes. Right. So there you go. You know, shout out to everybody. You know, Richard Nanku, is he still out there?
Yeah, he's still up there. Troop. Yeah, absolutely. Again, like great people up there. Like I said, these are the OGs up there, and you know, they need to get that recognition as well.
Yeah. So no, and Richard Nanku has some of the funniest stories, and you know what? They're so funny I won't even try to like retell them because like they're too funny, and it would be like sacrilege. But I mean, like, it'd
be worth a podcast just for him
and his stories. I don't know if he. Yeah, I mean, I would love to have him do that. I mean, if you think Curb Your Enthusiasm's funny.
Oh man.
This has got nothing. The only one that I was a little bit privy to was one that involved Mark Bocek's first MMA fight. And Barry McDaddy Flex.
Oh my God.
And then Richard Nanku trying to cover for something that Barry McDaddy Flex did, where he kind of got caught by his girlfriend doing, you know, like lying. And Richard wanted to cover, and Barry's like, hey man, so I'm not gonna tell the whole story, but hey man, I just wish I knew how she knew, right? And then it turned out that she knew because he butt dialed her and left the message, and his whole like you know, whatever it is that he did wrong was captured on a phone message. Like or whatever he was captured on the phone message would prove that he had not told her the whole truth about exactly his whereabouts. Or something to that effect. This part might get edited out of the podcast because I mean, these are real deal dudes.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. But
you get in trouble for that.
Yeah. But I'd love to have Richard Nanku on. You know, this is a guy that like nearly arm locked Misha Serkinov in a submission wrestling match.
I remember that.
So basically, like Richard Nanku was like 130 pounds ish at the time, and Misha Serkinov was like 220. And Misha Serkinov fights in UFC and has been top 10 ranked at some point in the 205s. I don't know what he's doing right now, but he's a great fighter, and he was very good at wrestling and judo. And so Richard got taken down for 2, and the rest of the match was Richard Nanku with an arm lock, and Misha's arm completely straight and literally like a millimeter away from a tap. But he just couldn't get that last millimeter. Yeah. And so like in the end of the match it was 2-0 Misha, but it was one of those matches where like the real winner was Richard Nanku. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like it's like that's jiu-jitsu, man. Like whoa. You know, so like
I think actually Misha when he got his arm raised, he's like forcing it down. It's like don't even bother.
Yeah, it was the final too. It was the absolute final. So Richie had beaten a bunch of other people too to get there. Like, you know, I mean, I think I don't remember the specifics of his other matches. That's one that stood out. But I mean, Nanku, man, that's a guy that like, you know, fought MMA seriously. Yeah. I think the guy that beat him was like Mark Hominick. I think that's who. I think he was the UCC TKO champion in Hominick. I mean, I could be wrong. We could do some fact checking. Yeah. But I mean, we're talking a guy who was elite MMA and elite jiu-jitsu in Canada at a time when we didn't have a lot of either.
And you know, the crazy thing is that, and I have to, you know, give that respect to Monkey, is that, man, this guy is like flying fine
That's
line.
his nickname.
Yeah, it's his nickname. You know?
He's still amazing.
Yeah, he's.
You roll with him recently?
Actually, no, I did. Actually, rolled with him, was it last year? And we just, it was at a grading at Gringos, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong. I rolled with a whole ton of people that day because it was one of my old students was getting his black.
But he's still good, eh?
Oh my God, it's crazy. Actually, like I said, he's like fine wine. He just ages and like actually doesn't age. The guy looks like he's younger now than he did 20 years ago.
Yeah. No. It's I mean, like it's amazing. And I think now he likes to pass the guard more than he used to. He used to just like to play a lot of guard.
Well, I mean, look at a lot of the guys like from that time now, man, like we're all banged up, we're all hurt and stuff, and this is something we kind of laughed at. Like I remember going to Brazil the first time, and my instructor Mauriciao, man, had a bum shoulder, and he's got his hand stuck in the belt and mangling everybody, with the hand in the belt. And I'm like, he's like, oh man, I'm all hurt. And like, how old are you? I'm 38. I'm like, 38, and you're already mangled up. And
that's like an internet meme. They show like an 80-year-old guy and saying, jiu-jitsu like helps keep you young. And they say Steve, 28. It's like the guy.
It's true. And like I'm not gonna. I mean, I know lots of people in the OGs here in Toronto that all have lots of injuries and stuff, and like guys,
we didn't train smart back then.
Well, I mean, like listen, it was a race to push ourselves and push ourselves, and sometimes to the point where we push ourselves without even thinking twice about, maybe my neck hurts, maybe I should give it a rest. Nah, we'll just go and train again. And like I was very fortunate to have a brother who was very hands on and said, okay, you're hurt, I don't want you training tonight, you go home.
And you took a lot of flack from that because people used to try to like say that you were soft, but this is probably why they said it.
Yeah,
it's because you would actually try to, and now you're still on the mats competing in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu tournaments, and for whatever reasons, we don't see most of these guys, with the exception of Richard Nanku, who we don't even know how old Richard Nanku is. Like, there's so many good questions.
There's an asterisk.
There was a guy at, oh my God, it's the academy in Syracuse. I don't want to get the name wrong, but Ken Cronenberg I think runs it.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's like guys, they've had Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu there for like 28 years. Something like that. 20.
What's the name of that school? It's driving me nuts now.
Yeah, so I literally just forgot it, but it's like one of the oldest, longest running schools in upstate New York. It's just outside of Syracuse.
I think it starts with a T or something. Anyways.
You're right about that.
Yeah,
this is gonna stick with you, huh?
I
know. But anyways, I actually did an open mat there. And I mean, I got run through by those guys, but that's not the point. There was the one guy that could tap me out but didn't bother to. I forget his name, but the dude was like 70 years old.
Yeah.
He was like 70 years old. He was probably about 240 pounds. Not like cut, but like but not fat.
Yeah.
And I then saw there's a monster brown belt who beat the crap out of me. They call the guy Moose, and I see Moose roll with this older guy. Mm-hmm. And the older guy, when he rolled with me, he let me spider guard him and do whatever. He's like, yeah, just try. It's okay. And so he never like, I don't even think he even passed my guard. He didn't do anything to me. But I could do nothing to him.
Paragon?
No.
Okay.
I think you were closer before, but
T,
yeah. But anyways, we'll figure it out. But it's not.
Sorry, it popped in my head.
Yeah, no. It's
getting close.
Yeah, but anyways, we'll figure it out. We'll Google this after.
Yeah.
But then we'll do a postscript. We'll put on Danny discovered. This is the name of the academy. No.
Let's put it here.
Yeah, but anyways, so this Taikai fighter, Taikai Jiu-Jitsu.
Taikai Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah, so this guy, so then I watched this guy Moose who was just literally like muscled me. Like when you do a roll and you're like, sometimes the guy could be stronger than you, but he used techniques. You don't really know if it was strength, his technique. No, this was like Moose like muscled me.
Yeah.
And then I see Moose roll with, and he's just weighs at least as much, if not more, than this other guy. Roll with a 70-year-old guy.
Yeah.
And mind you, by a 70-year-old, they don't know. He's somewhere in his 60s to 70s.
Yeah.
They know he's like at least around mid 60s, but they don't know. Like I talked to like several black belts there that have been around like the whole time. Been 20 plus year students there, and so Moose tries to submit, like take his back, and then he almost gets leg locked for his trouble. And then the rest of the time, I thought Moose was just taking it easy. It's like, I asked the other guys, I go, what's up with that? Is he just taking it easy on the guy? He goes, no, Moose says that he can't do anything with that guy. So it wasn't just my experience. Like nobody there could do anything to the 70-year-old guy.
Freak of nature.
And the last time I felt somebody like sort of so far from being like able to do anything with them was this guy Thomas Beach that used to train at my academy. And so, the first Thomas Beach was the first Canadian male to win a gold medal at the IBJJF World Championships with the gi on. He won blue belt 2009. He was not the first Canadian ever to win. Emily Kwok, training out of the United States as a purple belt, I believe won the purple brown black division or something like that, or the brown black or whatever as a brown belt, something like that. And then Melissa Biscardi by 6 hours was the first Canadian female training out of Canada, I think, to get a gold. She also did a blue belt just 6 hours earlier than Tommy.
What are the black belts?
Black belt, we have Dante Leone, who trains out of Ohio, who's won no gi.
Yeah.
We have no other, we have no medals in the gi. Canada has no medals in the gi.
I thought Jake McKenzie. Didn't Jake McKenzie ever?
No. Quarterfinals. World champion.
You know better than I do.
World Masters champion Jake McKenzie.
Yes.
Right,
yes.
But not adult. Adult. He made the quarterfinals and he fought the eventual champ or silver medalist or whatever. And he a couple of years ago. It was actually it was recent. It wasn't 2019, maybe 2018. He got there.
He's good, Jake McKenzie.
Jake, very good. Took a seminar with him. Awesome. And he's got some affiliates up here. So GF team doing big things in Canada, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And so then I asked this thing. It's like nobody can do anything with this guy.
Yeah.
And so it's like he's like 70. And I said, well, what does this guy do? And he goes, nobody knows what this guy does for a living. They're like, we think he's like we think he's like ex KGB or this or that. Like he's from somewhere in Eastern Europe and and he's got his own compound. And his wife must be really young because they have a daughter that's like 16, 17, 18. Oh, wow. And I mean, so it's like I was assuming his wife's saying, I don't know, maybe it's like.
It sounds like he's like a retired KGB guy.
Dude, and he sometimes trains the police in something, but they don't really know. And he's sort of self-sufficient on his compound, but occasionally he invites people. Super nice gentleman. But wow, jiu-jitsu, you can. So the big thing is you can do jiu-jitsu into your 70s. I think is the thing, and train with the young guys.
Yeah.
Because I mean, so the best day to start jiu-jitsu was when? Yesterday.
Yeah.
And what's the next best day to start?
Now.
Yeah. So whenever you're hearing this,
yeah.
that would be the time. But okay, so now when you're talking about kids and safety in your academy,
mm-hmm.
so just changing the topic, complete non sequitur. I recently saw you. So I basically just follow you around the internet.
Mm-hmm.
Right. This is what I do with my time. I follow Danny on the internet. I'm like, that man looks similar to me. I want to see what my future's know. Anyways, so one of the things is that you were agreeing with something that I didn't hear what John Danaher had to say about it, but you were saying that you agree that kids, correct me if I'm wrong, under the 12 and under shouldn't be learning submissions, or under 12 or something like that.
Yeah, I do and I don't, and I'm going to explain why I mean that way. Training them is one thing, but grappling in a basically in an organized role, there's a lot of parameters that can just go horrifically wrong for kids. Now, obviously, 5-6-year-olds and stuff like that, like I'll let them do it. They'll do them on the instructors and stuff. Like, okay, you're doing unbar. Oh, okay, cool and stuff. And more of the self-defense mindset. But when you start doing competitive jiu-jitsu and a kid doesn't know any better, especially like a white belt who's never trained, you have to teach them. You have to integrate them properly. Because again, submissions can be very, very damaging, not only physically but psychologically. Because I've seen kids literally get armbarred and they freak out. They actually panic. And again, sometimes they just can't understand. Even though if you sit there with all the best intentions, you have no idea. And again, you're seeing more and more of it today because I think the mindset of children today, that there's a lot going on in this world. So and it's not an excuse. It's just the way today's generation is. That a lot of them will look at it and it's like, this is scary, I don't want to do this anymore. But does that mean that we stop doing it? No, it has to be, again, done properly, has to be structured, it has to be one of these types of places, like you go to a school, it's okay, there's a curriculum, you know what's being taught, like my academy, we did the mermaid sweep today with the kids and they loved it, and then we showed them how to do what's called some people call it the idiot sweep, I call it the dum-dum sweep, where basically you hook inside the feet, so you try to do the mermaid sweep, they open the legs, you hook behind their legs, and you push on their legs, and they fall on their ass, which is, the kids laugh. I call it dum-dum sweep because obviously it's just in good context and stuff. So, but then we teach them, okay, Americana, you do what's called a catch system. Just very similar to like catch wrestling, but I don't call it catch wrestling, but I call it catch system, just like in Pride, catch.
So he fights Jason Godsey once, and I was talking about catch wrestling. It's just so following at home. Go on.
But I mean, I'm not calling it catches and catch wrestling.
They call Danny Carl Gotch in his academy. What's going on?
Gotch Gracie, God.
Whoa. Hoyler, you hearing this? You hearing this?
Gracie. No,
you just said Gotch Gracie is like one word,
actually,
one name.
Who said that? Actually, it was some wrestler who made that joke. I think it was Chris.
So I mean, Danny was showing me so proudly. He's opening his wallet and he's showing like pictures of his kids, and then there's like a picture of Josh Barnett. I don't know what this is about catch wrestling, but you know. Anyway, I'm just kidding.
I'm more of a boogeyman guy myself, so I like the boogeyman.
Whew. All right, so sorry, get back to. So you're talking about kids for their emotional safety.
Yeah, so and again, like, and some people, will look at it and kind of roll their eyes. Oh man, we gotta toughen these kids up, and I get it. But in today's day and age, it's not just the kids, it's the parents, and the parents are just so protective, and I get it. And like even for our school, we have rules, regulations. No talking during class. No coaching the kids and stuff like that. And it's important because if one kid gets coached and the other one doesn't, and like I've had parents who I've had to fire. I've had to kick students out. Yeah,
parents they don't know the damage they can do to their kids and to the environment.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
And so what it is it's not easy to be a parent. And I mean, I'm saying this not being a parent myself, but just watching parents, watching their kids in class, and then sometimes parents don't understand that their kids are an extension to them so far as how well adjusted the kid is socially, but they're not an extension of the parents, like how well they perform physically. And I mean, the kids are their own person, but like honestly, parents need to stop sort of looking at their kids as like a mini extension or a referendum on how good a human being the parent is, and freaking out when their kid doesn't seem to be in their parent's mind measuring up, because the kids are doing just fine. So it's pretty crazy. But I want to approach this because I have a different reason why I kind of don't like kids to learn submission holds. I don't have an age for it, but I used to have a student, well, not my student, but I did teach this child some private lessons. But Keenan Magnuson. Do you remember Keenan Magnuson?
Yeah.
Do you remember his father, Kim?
Yeah.
So Kim one day was proudly telling me, like the story could be a complete fabrication for all I know. I'm not saying that Kim doesn't tell the truth. I'm just saying maybe Kim was just trying to entertain. Maybe there's a disclaimer. Kim was a former attorney. So I'm just saying that beforehand, I think he won a course award for something at Osgood, so I don't want to mess with him just in case whatever I'm saying falls in his area of specialty.
You're picking all the good ones, aren't you?
Yeah. Well, I'm like right now, Mac Daddy Flex, Richie. Who else is going to beat me up after this? Kareem, Joey Scatamuglia, maybe. DiCenzo, like I don't stand a chance. So I mean, I should probably do like a last will and testament.
Oh,
but anyways, back to this. So and now we're gonna talk about Keenan. So he's apparently at least 3 or 4 boys. I don't remember if it was 3 or 4. Were apparently calling Keenan Four Eyes because he wore glasses. Mm-hmm. So he asked to meet them in the yard before school. And I guess it was winter time, so the kids were wearing coats. And the report came back that the kids that told what happened. So apparently, the boys agreed to fight Keenan 1-on-1 each. Mm-hmm. So Keenan choked the first kid unconscious, then choked the second kid unconscious, and if there were 4 kids there, he choked 3 in one ram. Yeah. Or if there were 3 kids, he choked 2 in one. And one of the kids who got choked unconscious described, well, he just put his hands in my collar, like not in my collar, inside my jacket, and then I felt warm and fuzzy. and so basically, I mean, this kid choked at least 2 kids unconscious in the morning, and what you have to understand is that he was doing this to prove a point about, Keenan was a smart kid, and he was like, he wasn't in a murderous rage. Yeah. But had a kid done a choke and had there only been 1 kid, or the other kids were caught by the bystander effect, not realizing what they were seeing, and the kid had been mad, I mean, you hold that choke for a couple minutes, there's some brain damage. You hold it for 5 minutes, it could be a funeral. Yeah. I mean, it's serious. So I feel like, and the other thing is that kids are growing. So if, sometimes, we talk about arm bars, and arm bars don't usually actually break the arm. They pop the capsule on the elbow. I mean, I wouldn't know about that. I tap fast. But no, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. I've had my elbow popped once because I tapped the guy. Just kept going. He was trying to impress Wagney. Shout out to Chris Ambus. Anyways, so, but back to it. But sometimes you get the lock not on your elbow. You get it on some other part of your arm. I'm just motioning for those of you that are just listening to the audio podcast. Check out the video one too. And then you can actually break bones. And kids still have their growth plates going on. They're still growing, so you really could affect development. That's one of the reasons why you shouldn't really do single legs on kids too early, because their hips. And
Yeah, sorry. It's funny you say that. Actually, we did a tournament years ago in Montreal. Actually, my brother's school, he was actually teaching at a school called KJS. And they were doing a grappling,
KJS is one of the schools that George St. Pierre was, learning karate from, and possibly even doing some Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because actually he's the one who actually started teaching Jiu-Jitsu there after my brother was there. I think it was like 2002, 2003 or something like that. But anyways.
So the only man good enough to follow your brother was the legend George St. Pierre. Before he was GSP, he was George St. Pierre.
George St. Pierre.
All right, go on.
Rushman. Anyway, so anyways, the tournament we had again, it was grappling tournament, jiu-jitsu tournament, whatever you want to call it. And first adult match was with a 16 or 15-year-old kid, and he was huge. He was like 6'2" or something like that. And he was like 200 pounds or something like that. And he fought an adult who was like 5'11", I'd say about 175, 180 pounds. So there's a huge difference in weight.
Oh wow.
But here's the kill. So this was the crazy part. So the kid, tall, gangly and stuff like that, he had a huge growth spurt. The guy goes in and basically goes for like an Osoto Gary. So basically getting his leg out and trying to hook his leg.
Yes.
And the kid based so wide that actually the kid broke his leg. So broke basically his fibia and tibia and fell back. And you can hear it. It was like a twig snapping. It was the first adult match of the tournament.
Oof.
Falls on the ground. I'm actually right there seeing it because actually it was.
Was the bone sticking out of the skin?
No, it wasn't. But
that can be very dangerous.
So when you see the foot like this, like his so obviously look at my hand. If it was my foot there, and his foot was like this, and you can see the skin lifting up, and I was like, oh my god, And my reaction, I was like. Like this, and everybody heard, and then everyone looked down at the leg, and I had people like literally throwing up and puking.
Did you ever see that scene in Stand By Me where there's like a pie eating contest, and then like the guy that was like winning, and he throws up, and then everybody starts throwing up on each other?
That's exactly what happened.
My god.
And so anyways, this poor kid looks, and I'm actually like I'm putting his gi, like he took his gi off and stuff, and I put his gi in front of and so you can't see it. He was like, I want to see it. Like, no, don't look, please.
You don't want to pass out. You don't want to go into shock.
And let me tell you, and actually the paramedics came in, they put an air cast on him right away. And so he had like a compound fracture, he had a compound fracture. He had two broken bones in two different places. And let me tell you, everybody was very, very careful to do takedowns after that.
Wow. Here's a question. Whatever happened to the kid?
I don't know. But
did he ever walk again?
No, he was okay. He was fine. You know what I mean? Like the doctor said he'd be okay, but it was pretty gruesome because his foot went out like this, and I was like, oh my god, And I've had actually a kid actually break his femur in my academy, and funny enough, his father broke his femur 6 months before, the same leg. So actually, I told him, I think you need to go see a geneticist, or you need to go get yourself looked at, as well as your son.
Or a psychologist for sympathy issues.
Well,
Kidding.
No,
Kidding.
It was pretty scary.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, and it was again Osoto Gary's. It was a very simple takedown and nothing, and the poor girl who did the takedown, she was like freaked out. Oh my god! And again, I got to sit there and talk to her. So
it's not your fault. Oh man! So we once had a student here at this academy I trained out of, and it was his first day. So we don't do this anymore. But back in the day, on your first day, you could train in the regular class. And there was another student who still, by the way, trains to this day as a brown belt now. And this other student had major knee injuries before jiu-jitsu, where his kneecap would come out of place.
Oh.
So they went knee to knee, and his kneecap went seriously out of place.
Ouch.
And yeah, the first day lesson guy never came back again. And so we try to limit these types of injuries. Yeah. And so one of the things I actually want to talk about is probably the most serious thing. Takedowns. Accept them. There have been 2 injuries that required surgery at the gym where I train out of. To my knowledge. I mean, One of them was a guy intentionally dove his head into the mat to try to finish off a takedown.
Oh my God, it's a rack. Like
He was a judo guy. He was like a brown belt at least in judo.
Yeah.
And this was many years ago. Like we're going back like I don't know, maybe 10 years.
Yeah.
Right? And then he fortunately went to the hospital and they fused his neck within within under 12 hours that he had the surgery.
Oh, he's lucky.
Yeah, and what they said is that he had the world's smallest. He was like 200 pounds, but they said that he had the world's smallest spinal thing. He told me this. He said that their smallest screw was thicker than his like the middle of his vertebrae, whatever that is. So they couldn't screw stuff in. They had to do like a fusion.
That's crazy.
So he was and he dove his head intentionally. And they said, look, he kept on training after that because he'd torn all the muscles. And so what happened was it wasn't that anything actually happened to his vertebrae, but he tore the muscles, so then his vertebrae became at risk. He tore the muscles in his neck.
That's dangerous.
So when you ever sprain your neck, because they said if he had gotten one more, like, in wrestling, sometimes people cut the back of your head and they just pull forward. They said if something like that happened, there's a possibility of all types of horrible things happening to this guy, including death and paralysis. And that's what he told me. And so none of that happened to him, and he just ended up tearing the muscles in his neck. But then there just wasn't enough support, especially given how he had such apparently a small spinal column, despite being like 200 pounds, like 5'10", and like muscular dude. And so so if you ever feel like a neck injury, that's kind of like a bad one. Stop. Don't test the range of motion. Go to the hospital. Get it checked out. You know what I mean? And like. And don't dive your head on takedowns. Don't accept takedowns, or if you can't complete a takedown, accept that. Don't go crazy. Then we had another gentleman who actually owns a popular karate school, but he had been training many years in jiu-jitsu. So he guys like blue belt from Royce Gracie, and he had a huge ego, and he did not like to accept sweeps. So he used to roll with him. He said, "Let's flow," and so what flow meant to him was he gets to do a bunch of stuff to me, but then when it's my turn, he blocks it.
Yeah.
And so so he would block it in the most awkward ways possible, and I'd be like, I don't think his ankle should be there. If I come up to which might force him to go down, then his ankle could get hurt. So I would just stay down and be like, okay. And for those of you who are saying, like in jiu-jitsu, you can be on top or you can be on the bottom when we're on the ground. And so I just basically saying, I'll just stay on the bottom. I can reverse the situation, but it's just not worth it because what if this guy gets hurt? But one day he didn't want to accept a sweep. Somebody swept him with a butterfly hook. And so he landed on his shoulder instead of accepting the sweep. And he had, this is a guy that had been training martial arts for 30, 40 years, lots of, Kyokushin, karate, and all types of things that mess with your shoulders. And so he ended up having a shoulder injury. And so he, it's hard to sleep for 6 to 8 months after shoulder surgery. So what I'd say is, like, in any sport, you've got to sort of accept things. And also, next thing, most valuable thing you can learn, I think, in a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Academy, and you might disagree with me, how to break fall.
Oh, no, I agree with you. That's actually, like I was explaining to you before, like I get sometimes flack from my higher belt students, like, Danny, why do you always do the same 10 exercises? As is because those are the most basic ones. Those are the ones that every beginner needs to learn. Shrimps, jacarés, Spider-Man as we call them, backwards rolls, shoulder rolls, backwards break falls, shoulder break falls. Those are they're the fundamental ones that we do all the time. And they're very important because those are the things that are going to teach you how to maneuver. And just learn very basic things. The shrimp, obviously, and we can do the shrimps in 5 different ways. Obviously, you can do a lot of like gymnastica natural, which I know that George is very, from your academy is very fond of.
Actually, Nate did gymnastica natural in a match recently in the AJP. You know that one where you sort of like you bring your foot, you sort of slap your own hand.
Yeah.
So he was trying to put the hook to take the back, and he slapped the person's face with his foot and then put the hook in.
That's cool.
So I guess the guy's foot got in the way of Nate's hand or something like that. Because Nate's also like sort of reaching in with his hand on the other side, whatever, to try to get a choke or something. So yeah, I mean, you can, we call it the Nate slap. Anyways. Yeah. Nate's the producer of the show, right? And so he's sitting there. Shout out to Nate, right?
It's like the thumbs up. He's like,
yeah. He's loving it. He's loving it. It's like look, the Diaz brothers have the Stockton slap. I got the Nate slap.
Where'd that foot come from?
The gymnastica slap. All right, go on.
But anyways, so I told you, and again, like that's something, and actually you'd be amazed. I get visitors coming all the time, and I get some people who don't know how to shrimp properly, don't know how to break fall properly, don't even know how to roll properly, and then they're coming in wearing like purple brown belts. I'm like, are you sure? And then you see them roll, they're amazing, but that's not a common thing they do in their academy, or the professors don't, be on their case about it. And for me, I tell the guys, like, look, in regular beginner class, this is what we do. I don't want to hear any complaining. Oh, I want to do this. I want to roll on my head, go inverted. And you know what? You want to do that, that's fine. But not in this class. You can do that in the advanced class. We can work on drills like that, which we do. But it's such an important fundamental. And this is where, again, we as instructors have to put our foot down and have to be stern, right? And I like the instructors that are stern. It's funny because when I was younger, I was like, oh man, this, being a hard ass, but they're being a hard ass for a reason. They want to make sure that you're training properly and you're ensuring that you're going to do it right so that you don't get injured, because then I see a lot of these guys today, that like were the OGs before me, the guys in Brazil who are all mangled, they're crippled, right? I mean, I've trained at Muay Thai twice. And seeing some of the old guys there, and they're protected. Like a lot of these guys, 5th, 6th degrees, corral belts and stuff. And when they go roll, and you see, Master Holker like freaking out on these guys, like, guys, go easy, don't go crazy. Listen, you're old, And obviously, it's the worst thing you want to tell a Brazilian that they're old. I think that's just, that's a touchy subject. But and I learned a lot about that. And when I was there the last time, actually, I went to go train. I was going to train, and there was a gentleman who is a black belt, but he sees like doesn't train as much, but he's from Hawaii and he doesn't really train anymore. But he's like, okay, I go, hey, professor, and I'm being respectful. Hey, professor, okay, come train with me. He goes, no, man. I'm like, no, it's your training, not mine. I'm here for you. So you know what? You can beat me up. I don't care. You know what I mean? Just let's train. I'll just move with you. Okay. And he beat me up for 10 minutes, and I didn't care. But you know what though? He was so happy after, saying, "Hey, thank you for the training and stuff." I'm like, "No problem. You need a time to train, no problem. I'm out here trying to prove anything, And that's something that's people are forgetting, because a lot of people on the mats, they want to get the W. They want to get the submission. They want to be, it's the ego driven. Right?
Yeah, and that leads back to a point we were talking about earlier about being safer. At least that point I made about being safer to train at places where at least the head instructor, if not the students, regularly compete.
Yes.
Is that there's this outlet so that your Super Bowl, your World Championship, etc., is not at the is not like at the inside the gym. You have, if you want to compete, there's an outlet for that. It's called competitions.
Yes.
And that's so important. I mean, when you train Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, it's your responsibility to tap when you're stuck in something. But honestly, when you're being a decent training partner, if you think there's a couple possibilities, right? One is like, let's say I have a chokehold on somebody and they're not tapping. It could be the case they don't have an efficient choke on them. Therefore, I should probably just give up on it and reset, and maybe try to get it again and figure out what details could be better, because I'm not getting like the insta tap, Yeah. And so if I'm working on something for 30 seconds and it should be done already, I should probably move on, or try to reset, right? The other thing is, so because either the person's crazy and they're going to go unconscious, or I'm not doing it right, or I'm doing it in such a way that requires a lot of muscle, in which case it's not efficient. So let me just go back and, like, if I get the tap by muscling, I won't remember.
I'm laughing because you probably remember the gentleman. Do you remember the judo guy that trained? He used to train
Bryce?
Yes, Bryce.
Oh my God.
So
Bryce is one of the few people to seriously injure me. Go on.
Yeah. So it's funny because Bryce originally started training at my brother's school. And obviously, I know he started training at your place.
Oh my God, Bryce. Judo Bryce.
Yeah, Judo Bryce. So
this guy when I last saw him, he was like in his mid 60s.
Yeah.
He was tough. I mean, not tough to roll with, not like from a competitive standpoint.
Just tough.
Just a tough dude.
It's like a lumberjack.
Did Bryce ever tell you about his experiences in Japan?
Yeah.
No, a lot of stories.
Judo, yeah.
A lot of stories, right?
Oh yeah.
Do you want to know how long he was in Japan?
No, he never told me.
3 days. He has like 150 stories.
Oh really? It's all in those 3 days.
Like 3 days, 5 days. It was like less than a week. I remember that.
Well, it's funny because
in Japan, see, like that,
His first time, I remember like it was yesterday. His first time in the academy. This was Grappling Arts Academy in 1999 or something like that.
Yeah.
And so I remember him being in there. We knew he was a judo background, stuff like that. So I'm actually in the office. So my brother is teaching, and I'm in the office dealing with the students. And all I hear is this shrill, this I'm like, what the hell? Like someone died on the mat. I run out, and I'm like, and then there's people like looking at me, and they're like laughing, they're giggling, and it's like, dude, you gotta see this judo guy. This guy's going nuts, man. He's like doing these ki eyes, and he's trying to go crazy. And when he botches the throw, everyone's taking his back, and he's getting put asleep. And I'm like, what?
No, Bryce is crazy. So Bryce is, it's not safe, man.
No, and this is like, and the reason why I'm bringing that up is because like this is actually like the wrong way to train. Like this is actually like a dangerous way, because he refused to tap. He says, I'll go to sleep before I tap out. And he got choked out often.
Okay, so he actually got a little bit better about that when I knew him, although I mean nobody really wanted to train with the guy, but I mean, he was the kind of guy, if you show him a technique, he'd be like, well, in Japan, we do it like this. And then like he would adjust it until the move didn't work. Yeah. I mean, like, by anybody's parameters except for his. But he was the kind of guy where he would go to throw you, and then you would start to choke him, and then he would jump backwards and claim he ipponned you because of judo rules. It's like, but we're doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And then he would always I heard from some guys in a judo school that he used to regularly attend, that he'd always talk about how amazing the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guys were and how they would wipe the floor with everybody in the judo school. And then he'd always go to us and tell us how the judo guys wiped the floor with us. So he was awesome, in that regard. But Bryce, one time, Keenan, that kid I was talking to you about, was still just a kid. We're talking like prepubescent kid. And Andre Pederneiras, one of the co-founders of Nova Now, Carlson Gracie black belt, real Carlson Gracie black belt. Andre Pederneiras had students like BJ Penn and John Lewis and Tito Ortiz and Chuck. I mean, like the list goes. I mean, the list's insane, right? Even to this day, Jose Aldo is probably the most famous one. Renan Baha, a lot of good MMA fighters from Andre Pederneiras. But anyways, Andre was running a class. He was just having a joke competition where you sort of have like team super fights, and so I drew Keenan, and the little kid got on my back and was trying to choke me, and Bryce was on the same team as me, so he was literally telling me to slam Keenan on his head, and he meant it. He meant it. He was like
that doesn't surprise me.
No. Bryce was insane. So the time Bryce injured me, there was a drill. It was like really cold, and so there's a drill where it was like no submissions. When you get to a certain point, like towards the back, it's done. So I got towards Bryce's back, and you put the hooks in, and it's done. After I put the hooks in, Bryce put his leg over the top of my big toe and crunched down as hard as he could, which popped my MCL. Okay, I was out for months, and I was like falling in the snow because my knee would give out.
Yeah.
I mean, all types of things were happening. And Bryce, when I came back, and he knew he'd done this to me, he never said, "Are you okay?" One day, I sprained my thumb with somebody else, and Bryce was like, "Are you okay? How's your thumb?" He was a nut. But man, seriously, the guy spent 3 full days in Japan, told 140 stories, and they were awesome stories. Like his stories about Japan were great. That man made the most of his vacation. So if you're still out there, like, you would make the best vacation guide.
Crazy judo Bryce is what. And again, like,
I know, and we're saying judo Bryce, and I bet you in judo, like, crazy jitsu Bryce.
Yeah. And it's funny because like those are things that I'll never forget. Like, especially those types of like that instance, man. Like, I remember I thought someone died on the mat. That sort of sound like someone someone got decapitated and run on the mat. And you see
man.
Bryce, trying to do a throw, and he's screaming.
Dude. So these are the old days when things were a lot rougher. Things were a lot nicer at the academies. And the funny thing is, I think the guys back then were tougher because it was more of a Darwinian experience. Yeah. And so, like, it was really only the toughest were left. But the thing is that in a jiu-jitsu context today, the average jiu-jitsu student would destroy some of the top guys back then. Yeah. Like, just the technique and the training partners and everything and the instruction, everything has gotten so advanced. But I wanted to... Okay, go ahead.
No, and I agree with you because why? Because the generational evolution. Sorry, that was a big one for me.
Yes.
Because we have, so many black belts here that, on any given day, like in my academy, there's, I have 2-3 black belts in the mat all the time. So there's always guys watching and always trying to improve. And, we're back in the old days, I had to travel. I had to go to Brazil, New York, California, if I wanted to get updated in my training.
Yeah, no. So like, it used to be like a really cool thing to be a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt when there weren't that many. Like, even when I got my black belt, there were probably like 30 to 50 in Ontario, maybe less. But now there's a couple hundred, but it's so cool that people are gonna get their black belts. Like, I mean, like that's and earn it. I would say that even now there's so many black belts. Like, we're filming inside the school I regularly attend, and there's 3 black belts here, and the gym's closed. There's myself. There's Nathan DeSantos, aka the producer, right? The guy that the author of the Nate Slap, Nate Slap to back take hook. And of course, the guest today, Daniel Moroney, 4th degree black belt under Royler Gracie. His brother's also a 4th degree black belt under Royler Gracie, Syl Moroney, who was one of the 2 main leaders of Toronto area jiu-jitsu. Moni Isaac, who actually never had rank in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, kind of being the other one. and I think never had rank. And of course, Moni's student Joel Gershon today runs Revolution MMA, which I believe had an open mat at some point.
Hint.
No, whoa.
No, it's all good.
No.
It's all good.
But yeah, exactly. But actually, I want to get something because there are names of guys that were popular, that were instructors, blah blah. But we're talking about urban legends. Okay. So like there are guys that like they might not have been competitors, but they're like urban legends. And I want to ask you about a name.
Okay.
Paul Abel.
Yep.
What's the deal with Paul Abel?
Paul teaches in Prince Edward Island right now. He has a school there, and he was one of my students for the longest time, and then started to go teach up in Bolton at one of our affiliate academies, which was was going to be the natural progression.
Yes.
He was teaching at my school. He was doing great and stuff like that. And then and it was and he made it clear to me that his plan was to move to PEI and stuff like that and start getting
which he did.
Yeah, which he did, and he's the main coach for Jason Sago, who was fighting in the UFC for a while. I think he's now out now. I think he's taking some.
So him and Jason Sago are in the same school still?
No, Jason actually runs his own school in the Summerside Martial Arts, and I'm not really sure about that, but again, Paul,
okay. Yeah. Paul Abel.
Yeah, but Paul, great guy, and tough as nails, man. He, I remember the first day with him walking into the academy. He's coming in his big, one of his big freaking motorcycles and stuff like that. He's got like shaved head and stuff. He looks scary. I remember my brother's like freaking out. I was like, oh my god, this guy's coming in here, and proved to be the nicest guy in the world, and was one of my principal training partners in the mid '90s for me.
How good was he at jiu-jitsu?
Tough, man, tough guy.
What were some of his best techniques?
Oh my god, you know what? Paul had a very smart, simple game. For him, his game is patience. He knew exactly how to wear you out and stuff like that. And again, very technical. And you know what I have to say, he's actually at the beginning was I don't see a brawler, but he was tough. He was young, and an agile guy and stuff like that. As he got older, he got a lot more. He got very technical. I'm not saying he wasn't technical before, but we all age and we all start getting a little bit wiser and stuff. So near before he moved and stuff, we trained a lot, and he was a fun training partner. Aside from him, I had him, and there's Rob Veltman, who runs Kubakan Sisu out in Guelph, and Rob was one of my main training partners for a long time, and he's one of the guys responsible for my judo, as well as another gentleman who just got his black belt not long ago. His name's Wayland Pulkinen, and Wayland's a 5th dan in judo, and he just got his BJJ black belt.
Was Wayland an Olympian? Was Wayland an Olympian or something like that? No. Okay, 5th dan judo is pretty high.
Yeah, 5th dan judo, and he ranked, if I'm not mistaken, he ranked 5th in World Masters Judo.
Oh wow, that's good.
In 2005. So the story about him, and sorry Wayland if I get you. So Wayland, I want to talk about Wayland because Wayland actually is a very, very good judo instructor, a very great instructor. He's a kinesiologist and stuff, and a great guy, overall guy. Lots of respect for him. He actually, his claim to fame is he threw Jimmy Pedro in a tournament one time and like clean. So he did a.
He got an Ippon.
He didn't get.
They didn't give him the score.
They didn't give it to him.
They robbed him.
Yeah, they gave him like half point or something like that.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so it was clean, and he doesn't like talking about it. I think he's.
Well, that's good.
So, but yeah, he. So that's his claim to fame. And actually, he's one of the main guys responsible for my judo. He's the guy who really pushed my evolution in my judo, my stand up, and was a great instructor because he saw right away, okay, we're gonna make your judo fit for your jiu-jitsu.
And then for those who don't know, Danny, just a warning to future people, Danny likes the Seoinage.
Yeah.
that's like a big weapon for him. And if he hits the Seoinage in a match, win, lose or draw, he will do a cartwheel afterwards. and he can do a cartwheel, man. Yeah. So maybe even a backflip. Who knows?
Was that 2000? Yeah, I did it actually. One of my first tournaments in Montreal, the 2013 one. And I was fighting some guy from Syracuse. I forget the guy's name. He was a tough dude.
Might have been King Cronenberg. Jokes.
But yeah, no, I don't think it was him. But it could have been that old guy. I I don't think so.
No,
but
that old guy was way taller than
yeah,
he was like 6'4".
Yeah. So anyways, so the guy has me in this guard, and I cartwheel out of the guard, and everyone in the place went bananas, and I had people come up to me saying,
"You're athletic, man." It's secretly.
I got to credit my brother for that, man. My brother, made us do all these kinds of crazy things, cartwheels and round offs and stuff.
One of your brother's former students, Kareem El Sayed, he used to teach at the academy that I go to, and he found, like, we used to have a part of the wall that wasn't properly reinforced, and he knew there were mirrors behind it that hadn't been taken out, and he would make everybody sprint and run up that portion of the wall and do a forward roll after that.
Oh my god!
So it's like like when Jet Li runs up a wall in the movie. It's like you won't get people at home won't get the perspective. But Danny, if you look at the wall over there, and you see where the blue is.
Yeah.
He would get people to run almost up like if you look at those mats. So you go 2/3 of the way up the blue.
Yeah.
And then you'd run, then you'd roll off the mat.
Yeah.
And he'd try to get you to go higher, but like he got most of the people running up, so about getting up about almost 4 feet.
Wow.
And then forward rolling.
That's high, man.
From there. And
I can't do that anymore.
You can't do that anymore. He used to. So basically, this came from Syl. So now we've got confirmation that Syl probably had people doing stuff like that.
Yeah. No, he did that crazy stuff. I'll tell you a really crazy story.
Okay.
And since this thing's going on its own course here. Years ago, me and my brother actually went to go train with a guy, and it was weird. We used to get always, I have like a ton of these stories, but anyways, so we had this guy, I won't say his name, but it was the guy had some crazy karate school in a city and stuff like that, and what was the name of the school? I think it was called Pure Sweat Karate. I think that's what it was called.
Oh my! I mean, I forgot some stories, but the name rings a bell.
Yeah. So, anyways, and not trying to knock him, but anyways, so
Danny wants to knock the guy from Pure Sweat Karate. I think that's the one thing that's really obvious. Like Danny's like, since we're going on, let me bring up a random story about Pure Sweat Karate. All right, I don't want to say any names, but the school's closed. Yeah, like another shot fired at the Pure Sweat Karate.
Well, it's
and here's a story. Okay, go on, Danny. Tell your story.
So the reason why I'm going after this story here is because the guy wanted to do some sort of an affiliation with us and stuff. I'm like, okay, well, no problem. We'll come and see what you're all about, right? So anyways,
and then one day he stopped paying his fees, and now there's a story about the Pure Sweat Karate guy. I'm just kidding.
So we show up to the place, and it's like some hole in the ground, whatever, and it had some mats, but nothing crazy. Mm-hmm. Anyways, he put them down. So what he trying to do is basically set us up to kind of basically make us look bad, which didn't work. So anyways, he's trying to do this warm up. So he's trying to do this crazy athletic warm up. Now you see all your bags that are stacked up over there.
Yeah.
So he would take those bags and stack them at least 6 feet high, and he says you got to jump, you got to shoulder roll over them. So we're doing like a shoulder roll competition. And then and for those who don't know, we were notorious for that. We do all these types of agility drills and stuff, which we don't really do much anymore. But
so let's be clear. The Grappling Arts Academy. Shoulder roll champions of Canada.
Yeah,
go on.
Oh yeah, no,
there's a claim. So Marcus Suarez students, if you're out there, Danny's saying in the 1990s, the best shoulder rolls in the business, right? Coming out of Woodbridge, Ontario.
So
all right.
So anyways, these guys are trying to wear us out, so we can roll after and stuff like that. So me and my brother, we're going over and so now their guys can't go over these mats, and me and my brother are flying over these things, and it's kind of funny, and that's to the point we're almost touching the top of the ceiling.
No.
Oh yeah, it was bad. So anyways, so the guys, so the instructor at the time was, like, as soon as he saw that we were able to do all this stuff and we're all like not even breaking a sweat, he decides, I gotta go somewhere and stuff. You just go train with my guys and stuff. And these guys basically were told that, our instructor told us that we have to beat the shit out of you. And it's like, okay. And they tried to and so we wound up like crushing these poor guys.
Oh, dude.
And they were so upset. And they're like, you know what? We don't like this guy. We're gonna go somewhere else. And we said, okay, well, you know what? There's Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu schools down in this area. Go there. Don't stay here. And because the guy he wasn't a good guy at the time, right? So. But he told us that's what he said. He goes, I want you guys to try and beat the crap out of these two guys. And I don't know why he said that. But then we never saw the guy again. It's funny because
Oh, speaking of never seeing the guy again, go ahead, finish your story.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I know you're going to talk about it. I know exactly what you're going to talk about. Oh my God, this is going to get me in trouble too. But anyways, yeah. So
He's seen him. We'll get to this in a second.
Okay, you got to tell me. Anyways, never saw the guy again. And funny enough, it was actually one of my old students who actually worked with him. I think the guy's like works in correctional or something like that, and actually saw him. And apparently he told him that he trains with me, and the guy goes, "Oh yeah, my guys beat him up and stuff like that." So obviously my brother told the guy obviously different. And,
Wow.
The guy was a joke. Anyways.
No, that's okay. So speaking of guys, there was a guy, Christopher Robinson.
Oh my God,
has he been found?
No.
So for those of you that don't know, Christopher Robinson was a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and karate instructor. Mostly out of Newmarket.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, nobody's located him. We don't know whether or not he's dead or alive. And he's probably most famous for stiffing one of Horian's sons and UFC fighter. What's the UFC fighter's name? The guy fought for the title.
Actually, Anderson Silva?
No. He was a Renzo Gracie guy. He fought 145. He lost to the Hawaiian guy. Anyways, there's a UFC fighter who ended up fighting for the title. He's a current fighter.
Yeah.
145.
Okay.
Right, and he lost to Max Holloway.
Oh.
Yeah, he got stopped. He got stopped. I'm drawing a blank too.
He stiffed him too.
Well, they came at the same time. Anyways, or at least there's a dispute over whether or not Chris Robinson stiffed. I'm gonna go on record saying that Chris Robinson pulled some stuff with us here at the school that I go to, that was not appreciated, and. But anyways, so you don't know where he is. You haven't seen him since.
No.
He hasn't reemerged.
It's funny because I've been approached by a very famous person who thought I was friends with him, and I'm like, no, he's not my friend. And again, like, I'm trying my best not to talk negative about people, but he went through the same nonsense with me and with some other people. Luckily for me, I was very fortunate to not be in a position where I was financially exposed to him.
Yeah, thank God.
And but I knew better. And it's unfortunate because I know he did a lot of damage to a lot of people, and obviously to the Gracies and stuff. So, which was very unfortunate because it actually it became his downfall. And
so basically one of the things about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is that you're supposed to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
And like in life, if you stick around long enough, if you're not honest, you're probably if you don't get out of the game, whatever game you're in, you're gonna fall down.
Yeah.
And so Chris Robinson's a cautionary tale. This was a guy who his father built up a great karate studio, and then he transitioned to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu at the right time, and he got really well connected with some of the Gracies, with Royler specifically and Royce. That's actually how I met Royce.
Oh, yeah.
Chris Robinson used our gym to film something with Royce.
Okay.
And so one day I had my head down, but I was in total I was just walking in, and some guy came in, and I was just in total greeter mode. I'm like, "Hi, my name's Josh. Welcome to Toronto BJJ." Blah 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 blah. Into some type of quasi sales pitch.
And then he realized
and he looks at me and he goes, "I'm Royce Gracie." I'm like, "Oh man." Yeah.
That sounds like Royce.
No, and Royce was nice about it, but it was like, man, that's so embarrassing. It's there was this guy who was in the film industry, and he was a legend in kickboxing. I don't remember his name, but he was one of the Dutch legends.
Okay.
And he was involved in the film, so somebody can figure it out. Or maybe he was almost a Dutch legend, but he was I later on connected the dots. This guy was a world champ kickboxer or something. Yeah. And I was taking him on a tour of the facilities, explaining to him what Muay Thai is, the art of the 8 limbs, and this guy's going, and
being polite.
Meanwhile, this guy's like one of the greatest strikers of all time, with the hands and the feet. So that's happened a few times.
Gotta love those, eh?
Gotta love it. So cautionary tale, just play it straight. That's the simplest thing. Danny and I are actually, I think, a testament to it. I'm not the head instructor of a school, unlike Danny, but I operate a school in Toronto that's reasonably well populated, and Danny has a school in Woodbridge, which apparently is very well populated, and we played it straight as far as I can tell. I definitely did, and it seems like Danny did. And we took a lot of criticism, and then over time, we're still standing. And so that's not because we're so awesome, but it's because that's the way you're supposed to do it, and that's how things generally work. Most of the time, with the lone exception being the current president of the United States. So where apparently
let's not go there.
Let's not go there. Okay,
we got 300 million people.
No. That's what I want. I want the viewers. Yeah, I mean, just FYI, Danny had a MAGA hat.
Oh.
And
no, I had a GMC hat.
GMC hat. America. No, big shout out to GMC. Glad they're still there, and they're probably still there because Barack Obama. Anyways,
thanks for the bailout. I have a nice pickup truck up front here.
No. It's not. But
I'm paying for it.
Actually, one of the great things about Jiu-Jitsu is, regardless of your political stripes, everybody gets together and has a good time. And it just as we're gonna stay away from the politics. But what's interesting is, like, guys who really disagree, guys and women that really disagree, you know. And people of other genders, non-binary, really get along together in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu academies because they have to have mutual respect to stay safe, emotionally and physically, and so they can disagree politically and still have reasonable conversations. And so when I've had political conversations in the gym, it's not really recommended because, you know, it's just kind of awkward, but it usually doesn't get too heated, and it usually stays civil, and it's usually way more productive than what we're seeing on television these days. So what I like about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is that we can respect each other.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I try and follow 3 main rules in my academy. You know, the 3 things that you want to never really want to touch on at all is sex, politics, and religion. Those are the 3 things that you want to try and do your best to be as very delicate about, and obviously respectful about. If people want to talk about it, like, I mean, I've had people who were very, like, vocal about certain things, and it's like, look, that's not appropriate. You know, talk about it outside. You know. And just follow basic respect, you know, and because again, like, we're coming on the mats here. Like, I mean, my point of view is very simple. You know, you want to come in here, you want to release stress, you want to get in shape, you want to learn a realistic martial art that's going to help, you know, save your life one day if it needs to. It gives you purpose in life, you know, competition. A lot of people strive and they love it, and it gives them a sense of direction, and it's, you know, that's the beautiful thing. And at the same time, you know, we want to try to develop to be better human beings, and especially on the mat, if we try and follow the rules and we're good people, like, look, I have to, you know, I'm training with someone, I got to make sure they're not going to hurt me, you know, they're in a proper frame of mind, and, you know, those are the kinds of things that, you know, are very, very important. And if that stuff, those kind of rules are broken, or, I mean, you can bend them, you know. And listen, sometimes I've had people say all three of those things in one sentence, where it's like, oh boy, okay, this is going to be a fun one. But then we tell those people, like, look, you know, like, listen, there's a time and place for that, which we don't mind, but, you know, obviously there's everybody in here who has to, you know, coexist with each other. And especially in today's, you know, climate, there's so many things that are so politically, politically, religiously, and, you know, sexually charged. You know, we have to be so careful now. You know, and again, integrity is everything for me. You know, like, listen, I don't toot that I'm, you know, the poster child of, you know, complete integrity. But, you know, like, obviously when it comes down to running my school and trying to be an honest, fair person, I try to be. And I can sleep at night.
I think that's the thing, right? You know, like, that you try, right? And just in general, that the rule is to try.
Yeah.
And you know, so I mean, like, my next question was going to be about the differences between right wing and left wing people in terms of their religious and sexual practices. But since you don't want to talk about it, totally joking.
Hashtag shots fired.
No shots fired. And if so, who? And is that what we talk about? Anyways, Danny, now it's a landmine. You ruined it. We're going to talk about it, but now we can't. No. But back to Jiu-Jitsu. So if anybody's listening, that's what they can. So, I mean, I guess, you know, this is the stage. Like, we've been talking for a while, and we should love to have you come on back again for some other you know, topics and conversations and stuff like that. But you know, this has been a great podcast with Daniel Moroney, 4th degree black belt, leader of Gracie Muay Thai Woodbridge, and I mean, I believe you're the highest ranked Gracie Muay Thai guy in the province of Ontario.
Non-Brazilian yet. I think I'm.
Who's the Brazilian?
Well, no. I mean, in general, I think Wagner's a higher level than I am.
No. From Gracie Muay Thai.
Gracie Muay Thai, I'm the highest. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I mean, George just got his fourth too.
Yeah. George just got his fourth.
But
he's Gracie Muay Thai. I mean, listen, he's from the same lineage and stuff.
No. But we're talking about repping Gracie Muay Thai. Like you're the
team. Yeah, I'm the most senior.
He's the senior guy.
Yeah.
Right, and when you look at him, you say, "This 28-year-old, how is he the?"
Yeah,
I'm just kidding.
He's so young. Props to George, man. Within the Gracie Muay Thai, family, and again, like I've been involved with Royler since 2004. It's going on 16 years.
That's awesome. That's amazing.
Royler's a great guy. Great teacher, great mentor, great friend. It's been a great journey. We laugh all the time. Like sometimes I feel bad sometimes when it's time for him to go because we have great conversations and stuff, and at the same time the jiu-jitsu just gets more and more fun, and again our every time we do our annual meetings and stuff like that, and it's great to see the rest of the team and stuff, guys like Morongo, guys like Paulo Coelho, and it's again Letitia and stuff like that. They're such great leaders in their own right as well. So it's fun to be around those people. Yeah.
So question about Morongo.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I'm wondering if I've met Morongo's father, because I've met Carlos Valente.
Okay.
Carlos Valente. The story.
Carlos Valente, yeah.
Yeah, I've met him. Is that Morongo's father?
I don't know.
All right.
I don't think so, but
okay. So you don't know, but you don't know. We're gonna.
Okay. Sorry, Morongo. I don't know that answer.
No.
I've seen Carlos Valente around often. So, but I never seen him at the academy.
Okay, so now we're gonna ask some tough questions here.
Okay, go ahead.
So, I because of the way that we have the camera set up, I can't show you the clip, but I used to ask at the World Championships a bunch of people whether or not they like my dog is approaching us. It's the sounds you hear, right?
He's awesome.
I think Nate just took her for a walk.
Sorry, she's awesome.
Yeah, Blossom is awesome. So one of the questions to ask is, you've been out to California, right?
Yep.
What's your favorite supermarket?
My favorite supermarket there, actually, I was actually, it's the first time I've ever been introduced to Whole Foods. I love Whole Foods, man.
Okay, so you go with Whole Foods.
Yeah, I like Whole Foods.
All right. So a big win for Whole Foods.
Yeah, because you know what, they weren't here at the time, so there's a Whole Foods here. Okay, great.
Have you ever been to Trader Joe's?
Yes, I have. Trader Joe's is good too.
What about Ralph's?
Ralph's is good too. And again, those are like.
Okay, if you had to pick between Whole Foods and Ralph's.
Oh man, that's a tough one.
Really?
I'd say Ralph's.
Why?
I don't know, man. I love food, man. So sometimes when you're eating too healthy, you gotta have a little bit of sinfully good food. So.
so he likes Ralph's foods because it's not healthy. So you've heard it here first.
Not
Daniel Moroney. Oh, okay. Not as healthy. Okay.
I like them both. So, but since we're going there, and when I go to California, obviously it's a no-brainer. You gotta go to places like In-N-Out Burger and some of the churrascarias there and stuff like that, and obviously the sushi places. Even though I'm allergic to fish, I'll go to the sushi places because sometimes I like the way they prepare the food there. It's a little different than here, depending where I go, right? So
okay.
But I mean California, I've told people, it's such a comfortable vibe there, especially San Diego. You just can't go wrong with a place like San Diego.
No, fair enough. And so I guess coming soon there'll be an episode Josh and Daniel just talk about food. But anyways, so this could go on forever. Yes. You can probably tell. So we're gonna call it there. Anyways, yes. Man, it's been an honor and a pleasure. Thank you for doing this.
Always fun.
And thank you for being a big part of the growth of Jiu-Jitsu here in Ontario, if not Canada.
Yes, well, we'll definitely there's definitely more to come, and obviously.
The best is yet to come. But one last question.
Yes.
Were any of the Tony Isaacs versus Fernando Zulik matches fake?
No, they're legit, man.
They're legit matches. Did Tony ever win any of those?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I can tell you though that I fought Fernando once. So
was that a legit fight?
It was a legit fight.
Who won?
I don't know. You guess.
Congratulations on your victory, Fernando. I'm kidding. He doesn't want to say he did.
Well, let's just say that I love Fernando. He's a great guy, man.
I think that's one of the matches you did a cartwheel after.
No, actually, no.
Did you ever fight Wagner Fabiano?
I rolled with him. I haven't.
You have not fought him in the tournament. Fernando did. That was Fernando who got lucky. Okay.
I got. He got lucky, really?
Well, no, they didn't get. No, he got lucky. They got to fight him.
I got lucky. They got lucky. What?
No. I think that was the year that Wagney did a Grand Slam.
Yeah. I see. I
for Masters.
I rolled with Wagney in Montreal, and you know, like again, like I was. What was I? I think I was a brown belt at the time. So yeah, he's tough. Like obviously, small guy, tough guy.
He was my first black belt instructor.
Yeah,
Wagney Fabiano. Once, oh dude, I gotta tell this story since you're here.
Okay.
And we'll talk to Wagney, but this is a crazy story. So, back in the day, you didn't let people tap you if you're an instructor. Now, like instructors don't care. You know, I don't know. I won't use names in my academy, but basically, like I've let people like tap me if they're like, you know, like if they're like close or whatever. It's not, you know, even if I could get out sometimes, it's just like not a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, and I'm not gonna freak out. But like back then, like if you know, like you would fight to the death, you'd risk injury to not be tapped. I'm saying basically, I will not risk injury to be tapped, like to not be tapped.
No, and listen, John.
But back in the day, that was the thing. Who tapped who?
Yeah.
Imaginary rankings within the academy.
Yep.
So you confirm that.
Pecking order. Yeah. No, absolutely.
Dude. If you were a bit tired and you thought you were number 11 and this other guy was number 10 or the reverse, you wouldn't want to roll with him because you weren't at your best. It was really weird. Anyways, so one day Wagney's rolling with a guy, Marcelo Faez.
Yeah.
Marcelo is one of the strongest 160 to 180 pound humans ever. We're just talking like every fiber of his being is strong. And somehow Marcelo taps Wagney, but Wagney looks super weak.
Yeah.
And Wagney's like, I think I'm having a heart attack.
What?
Yeah.
Holy cow.
And so then, but he was scheduled to fight a guy whose name was Tommy Lee, not the Tommy Lee that married Pamela Anderson, but Tommy Lee in TKO for the TKO belt, and Tommy Lee had slammed Mark Hominick into unconsciousness.
Yeah.
So anyways, Wagney had this big MMA fight, and the next day he had to go to the doctors for his test, and then the doctor said they were doing like the heart test, and they goes, we can't pass you for the fight because it looks like you just had a heart attack within the last 24 hours.
Holy Jesus.
And I was like, bro, you know, I need to do this fight, you know, like maybe he needed the money or whatever it was. And so they said, okay, come back tomorrow, we'll put you on the stress test. Now remember, Wagney grappled. He got tapped once by Marcelo, but then he grappled for another 3 to 5 minutes while having a heart attack. So they put him on a walking stress test on a really slow going what do they call those things? You know, you walk on and they're kind of
treadmills.
Treadmills, man. I'm losing it. Man.
Danny's a trick in me.
So in the future, I get smarter, as you can see. My doppelganger.
So he's tricking me.
So then Wagney, of course, passes the test, and then he goes to do the fight with Tommy Lee and finishes him in like 2 minutes and 46 seconds. So
that's crazy.
So Wagney Fabiano. I think it's fair to say that Wagney was the first world-class competitor black belt that made Canada his home.
Yeah.
That would be a fair call.
Yeah, he's one of the first, absolutely, without question.
Who else would there be before?
I'd say my good friend Rodrigo Mandruco when he was here.
Okay, but Wagney was a black belt before Rodrigo.
Yeah, I'm saying afterwards.
Yeah.
I'm not saying he was the first, but I mean Rodrigo obviously was another guy too that basically put Canada on the map.
No, I'm not trying to take shots at Rodrigo
because he technically because he got his black belt actually here in Canada, right? Like
yes. So Wagney came as a black belt, and Wagney had medaled at Worlds as a black belt.
Yes.
So the first like world class competitive black belt. Yeah. In the adult divisions to settle in Canada.
Yeah, without
and so Wagney's kind of the stuff of legend, and if he hadn't competed openly, he would be the stuff of urban legend.
Yeah.
Because Wagney is a good wrestler.
Yeah.
You know, and people don't know that. So we'll talk other podcasts about that.
Very highly underrated.
Danny and I are now we're gonna close it out. Once again, I've already thanked him. We can only shake hands so many times given like the coronavirus and other things are happening. So now we're dating this podcast. Stay safe. And by the way, if you have a flu or flu-like symptoms, stay home. And if your academy has a good policy, they'll be happy to save some time for you.
Yes.
All right. Take care, and thank you so much. Bye.
Cheers.